Report of the International Relations Committee dated November the 4th, 2025, and that's approved on consent. And then before we start, I would also like to alter the order of business such that 5 presentations listed under presentations by staff, officers, and agents of the corporation will be considered prior to the open delegations. And the first presentation that we have, I would like to call to order the presentation so that Agenda 3.4 concerning the presentation by Deloitte 2025 Audit Service Plan is presented first. And I would like to call Lillian Chung and Katie Devens of Deloitte to provide the presentation.
Thank you so much. Through you, Chair, thank you so much for having us here today to present to you our audit plan for the year relating to the fiscal 2025 audit of the consolidated financial statements of the City of Barrie. If you are following along, I will be presenting to you on page 3 out of 29 of our audit plan for the year. Apologies, as you will just have me today and not Katie Devens, who is my audit manager, who is unfortunately ill and cannot join us. As I mentioned, our audit plan in the current year, in terms of my areas of focus for today's presentation, will just be on the executive summary. Our audit plan summarizes the expectation for our team based on our initial risk assessment and update on our understanding of the city's business for the current year, the areas that we will be focusing on as part of our audit for this year. As the committee will be aware, our audit is conducted in accordance with Canadian auditing standards as with prior years and is a risk-based audit. It is based on our assessment on where things could go wrong in the financial statements of the city and where financial reporting risks could occur. Within our audit plan this year, you'll see that we have identified 3 particular areas that we wanted to focus the committee's attention. And these are the areas that we will be spending the majority of our time as part of our audit field work in terms of our audit procedures. Those areas are revenue recognition, management override of internal controls, as well as management judgments and accounting estimates. For the committee's information, these 3 areas are consistent with our previous year's risk assessment for the financial statements of the city and are not any different in terms of our expected performance of audit procedures for this coming year. Another really important concept that we wanted to convey to the city as well is the concept of materiality. This is a calculated figure, a number, that will be used as part of our audit risk assessment, as well as our audit determination of the extent of audit testing and also our variance analysis. So this figure is hugely important from the perspective of an auditor because it does drive the extent of audit efforts that is performed every single year as part of the audit. We expect to be determining our audit materiality based on 2.5 to 5% of expenses. This is consistent with what we've done in the previous years for the audit of the consolidated financial statements of the city.
I'll just jump in for a second just so you're aware the slides haven't been changing, so I don't know if you want to indicate what slide you're on, and yes, that way we can all get caught up here.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair. I'm on slide 3 of 29 within my audit plan.
And then maybe if you want to just to advise whenever you want the slides changed then.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I would just stay on this page. I won't be moving anymore, but as I was mentioning, in terms of the audit materiality figure, it is being determined consistent with the prior year. We do expect to be determining it as a percentage of total expenses. Not only is this consistent with the prior year, this is also consistent with the approach that we take with our other audits of municipalities across Ontario. So this is very much informed by our experience with other municipal audits as well. And then lastly, the only other item that I wanted to highlight is within our audit plan this year, we've included a number of appendices outlining the audit technology we'll be using as part of our audit delivery. As you will know, many audit firms are conducting audits based on more and more usage of technology. This is more so to drive better efficiency, but also to drive more pinpointing of risk assessment to help us in honing in on the areas that we want to probe as part of the audit. We believe it's both a way for us to increase the efficiency, but also the quality of the audit that we perform. So that is more so for the committee's information. But maybe I'll pause here and happy to take any questions that the committee may have for us on the audit plan this year.
Okay, great. Thank you. And is there any questions from members of committee? Any members of non-committee? Just goes to show you how well your presentation was when there isn't any questions. So thank you very much for your presentation, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Then moving along, I would also like to alter the order of business concerning items 7.2 and 7.3, the 2026 business plan and budget. Service partners to be considered at the same time as the presentation items 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3. Our second presentation is from our service partner, the Barrie Public Library. I would now like to call Lauren Jessup, the Chief Executive Officer of the Barrie Public Library, along with Austin Mitchell, the Chair of the board, to provide their presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's only 4 o'clock. Chair Harvey, Mayor Nettle, and members of council. Austin and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present the Barrie Public Library's proposed 2026 budget. I'm pleased to share highlights from this past year, along with a look at the year ahead as we continue to serve our growing community. 2025 has been another year of strong progress and community engagement. We launched our new strategic plan, welcomed over 5,000 new members just in the first half of this year, and celebrated community with another successful Dragon Boat Festival. In 2025, we once again received the Bright Futures Grant, this time supporting technology programs for the youth in our downtown. I also wanted to highlight the community consultations for our new Letitia Heights branch, which is already generating a great deal of local excitement. Our key performance indicators tell a story of stability and modest growth in many areas. Active cardholders are up 8%, and meeting room use has grown by more than 40%, highlighting the library's value as a gathering place. Checkouts and visits have stayed steady, despite some challenges in accessing our spaces due to a tricky last winter and construction on neighboring properties. Our Net Promoter Score, a point-in-time measure of how likely residents are to recommend the library, sits at an impressive 84. We're proud of these results and are using them to guide our efforts in the year ahead. One of our most important areas of progress has been community safety at the downtown library. With the county-supported Human Services Navigator program, combined with our security team and the Barrie Police Special Constable program, we've seen a 28% decrease in incidents per 5,000 visits. We appreciate the county renewing funding for the Navigator through 2026. This is a clear endorsement of this partnership model that addresses homelessness and connects people to the right supports. Like other public libraries, we're navigating several budgetary pressures: rising costs for materials, stagnant provincial funding, and increasing labor costs. In a growing city, we're pleased to be expanding our footprint. The opening of the Letitia Heights branch in 2026 and the planned South End Library are service enhancements that expand our staffing and service capacity, but require additional financial support from taxpayers. You'll see later in the presentation that we are funding a portion of our 2026 operating budget from the library's stability reserve. While this reserve is meant to blunt the impact of budgetary increases, using it too heavily is not sustainable and something we should remain mindful of. We are fortunate to be going into the year ahead focused on library service expansion into Letitia Heights and implementing our new strategic plan. This includes expanding and strengthening community partnerships and continuing to increase community support for the library. We are well positioned in 2026 to expand our impact while being responsible stewards of public funds. Now I'm going to turn it over to Austin to take you through our detailed 2026 budget.
Thank you, Lauren. The library's proposed 2026 operating budget totals just over $11.3 million, an increase of $319,000 or 2.9% over 2025. The library is requesting a baseline increase of 1.5% on their municipal grant, as well as an additional 1% to be transferred to the library's capital reserve. This additional 1% will go towards capital expenses related to library expansion projects. The remaining difference of 0.39% represents changes in the library's other revenue sources and an internal contribution from the library's stability reserve. Overall, this year's increase reflects modest adjustments to maintain current service levels and fulfill our contractual obligations. Salaries and benefits account for approximately 63% of the library's total budget. The 2026 request for salaries reflects an overall 3.7% increase, driven by contractual obligations and the cost of benefits. These costs remain necessary to retain skilled staff and maintain service levels across all branches. As we keep working to grow the library use and build awareness of our resources, our business development expenses are expected to increase by about 2.8%. To reflect strong program participation by residents and higher costs associated with programs, we see an increase in the programming and outreach budget by 3%. Expenditures for library materials and collections continue to sit just over $1 million. Despite ongoing inflationary pressures in publishing and supply costs, the materials budget has been maintained at 2025 levels. However, we will continue to preserve access to diverse, high-quality collections for the community. Should additional funds be required to support library collections in 2026, the Library Board may choose to draw additional funds from reserves. Training and development costs have risen by 3%, supporting our commitment to ensuring staff remain up to date with new technologies and leading practices in the industry. Contracted and other services sees a minor increase due to rising costs. You will note that our City of Barrie line for facilities chargebacks and Holly rent is up 2%. This amount is determined annually by corporate facilities in consultation with library staff. The transfer to reserves reflects the additional capital contribution that I mentioned earlier that supports capital needs for future branches. On the revenue side, as mentioned, the municipal contribution increases by 2.5%, while other funding sources such as grants, reserves, and rental revenues cover the remainder. Due to strong use of meeting rooms and printing in our branches, we have increased this revenue line by over 13%. You'll also note here the planned transfer from reserves of $360,000. This represents the draw from the stability reserve that we mentioned. Our contract with Medante for library services sees an increase of 3.2% for 2026. Other grant revenue is down due to the conclusion of the Bright Futures grant, but staff do continue to monitor for additional grant opportunities that may come up during the year. As requested by Council, the Board has provided a reserve continuity schedule, outlining how reserves are expected to be drawn down in the coming years to support facility growth and renewal. Over the next 5 years, the Board intends to invest in 3 major capital projects. The details of these are on page 4 of your library budget package. We have already allocated $1 million for capital needs at Letitia Heights and are looking forward to this project next year. In 2027, the Board plans to allocate $1 million for revitalizing the downtown library's children's floor to enhance literacy and accessibility. Following that, the Board expects to support library capital needs at the South Barrie mixed-use facility with a further $1.1 million from reserves. Lauren?
Our staffing needs will grow in 2026 as we get ready to expand services at the new branch. When this branch opens, we plan to add a few key roles: a librarian, a library administration staff member, 6 part-time library associates, as well as summer students, pages, and community engagement assistants to support the branch. Although we were able to open Holly with no additional permanent staff, we can't stretch resources further, and these additions will ensure consistent service coverage with the addition of a new branch. Funding for these positions has not been included in our detailed budget slide, but in a separate ask for partial operating funds for Letitia Heights. Residents in this neighborhood are really looking forward to library services. Our community consultation survey had more than 2,000 responses, many of them from youth. Survey feedback highlighted a continued strong interest in books and other materials, but also for programs, workshops, and early literacy initiatives. Residents consistently told us how meaningful it would be to have a library within walking distance, a true community anchor for Northwest Barrie. In addition to the survey, we also received letters of support from Andrew Hunter Elementary School. These letters, which warmed my heart, brought tears to my eyes, were from grade 3 students, and they highlighted how excited they are to have access to a library close to home. I connected with the school's teacher librarian, and the kids were so proud to have played a part in advocating to bring a library to their neighborhood. So I couldn't leave them out of the presentation today. Austin?
So the lease for the space in the plaza at Lampman Lane and Leacock Drive was finalized this summer. We're now working with corporate facilities and the landlord to plan the renovations and the addition to the space. Our goal is to have the work completed and the branch open by this time next year. As noted earlier, the board has committed $1 million from the library's future capital expenditures reserve to fund the opening day collection, furniture, shelving, and IT components for this location. As with all our collections, once the branch is open, the materials would be available system-wide. At this time, we have budgeted a total of $1.2 million annually to expand services into this neighborhood. This covers the staffing levels mentioned earlier by Lauren, as well as the additional system costs required to support expanded services. As we anticipate opening in Q4 of next year, we are requesting $295,000 to support operations in 2026. In 2027, the request would reflect the full operating amount. We're very excited to share library services with this neighborhood, and we want to thank you for your enthusiastic support of this expansion and library services in general. We hope this presentation has shown you how consistently we are working to ensure more people can discover opportunities inside and outside the library. Through strong collaboration with yourselves and our community partners, we're building spaces and services that meet people where they are safely, equitably, and sustainably. Thank you for your continued support, and we'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Great, thank you for your presentation. And do any members of committee have any questions? Councillor Kungle.
Thank you, through you, Chair Harvey. Welcome to Council, Ms. Jessup and Mr. Mitchell. Thank you for the presentation. Going through the fuller package, just wanted to kind of come back to maybe the point made about access to the collection. So no net new investment in expanding that collection, but are you really seeing the need for new materials, or are you seeing more of a different shape in how existing services are being used? So I didn't see necessarily anything pointed directly to things like your 3D printer and your creative space and your maker space, but know that that is a heavy draw but might be atypical. So is that considered under materials, or is that more kind of your one-time minor equipment assets that really just get used around how people come together and share that space or use what's existing but doesn't really need to be replenished?
Sure. Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Kungle. So, good question. So we do add things like, things in our makerspace regularly, supplies and things. They do not come from the collections budget, so they come from the programming budget. That's more of a program feature. It's one of those things that we had to sort of decide where we were going to allocate, and so the creative spaces does come in under our programming and other like sort of office development expenses. So that is not captured in the collections budget.
And follow up, if I may, and I could have missed this around what's being planned for Letitia and the new site. So within some of that funding for one time or prorated to the year that you think you need it, are net new material funds in that for that space, or are you looking at actually spreading what you currently have as existing? Or are you able to actually bring in new supply specific to that location because of the opportunity around it being an opening doors situation?
Yeah, for sure. So we have allocated $210,000 to build a brand new collection for that branch. So when people come in on opening day, there will be all new books on the shelves, which is so lovely. And then those books will be available throughout the system. So it is a bit of an injection of collections into the library system. Another reason why we can keep that 2025 collections budget where it is, because we know that we're adding a number of new items to support Letitia Heights. And yeah, brand new stuff for that branch.
Thank you. No further questions.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for members of committee? Members of non-committee? Oh, Councillor Harris, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Harvey. I have a couple quick ones and appreciate the presentation, and all the work that's going into the library and the expansion is really exciting. So that's wonderful. Just curious, I'm interested in the library of the future. I noticed in the KPIs you talked about checkouts of physical and digital items. I don't need the answer for tonight, but I imagine you have that separated somewhere because you've got them together. And just curious, is there a trend moving towards more digital items, or is it still hard copy stuff? Is it just curious?
Yeah, through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Harris. So I'm going to guess for now, but I think it's about 50-50. So I think we are maybe 51% digital and 49% physical. but don't quote me on that. I can find out for sure those numbers. But it is, we saw a really huge jump during the pandemic in digital usage, and that kind of has stayed the same. And then we're seeing in our physical collections like a tiny drop, and then it goes up, and then it drops again. So it's a stable number of people who are still borrowing those physical items, which tells us like we have more people just using the library in general. So overall, use of materials is up, but it is largely digital that drives that increase.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Harvey, just one other quick one. I noticed the use of bookable meeting rooms is up 44.4%. Just curious, was that something that also came up in the consultation for the new library and how that kind of factors into the planning? Thank you.
Sure. So yeah, I think a big part of that is that at the downtown library, we have more spaces that we have made available to the public. So again, during the pandemic, we shuffled some staff office spaces around, and we were able to give some space back to the public. So there are more spaces available to book. So we are seeing that increase in use of those spaces, and they're all different sizes. There's, some are small little offices that people can have small meetings, and then there's larger ones for like a bigger meeting.
And just to add one thing to that, in the Letitia Heights survey results, study or meeting space was identified by 31% of respondents as something that they would like prioritized. So yeah, definitely something that people are interested in.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you very much. That's all my questions. Thank you, Chair Harvey.
Any other questions from members of non-committee? I just have one question. On slide 7, you kind of glazed over the community navigator piece. Obviously, it's indicated that it's going to continue for this year. I just double check. I know last year it was funded by the county. Is that continuing for this year?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Other than that, that was my only question. Obviously, I think our deputy mayor is quite excited about the new up-and-coming library that's going to be in his area, because I know the Holly one's been quite successful and very well used, even from myself when we're talking about meeting spaces. So I would hope that there's going to be a similar thing in the new one too. But thank you for your presentation and the detail involved in your budget presentation this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.
We'll now move along to 3.2, which is the 2026 Service Partner Budget presentation from the Barrie Police. I would now like to call upon Chief Rich Johnson and Greg Ferguson, the Chair of the Police Services Board, to provide their presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair Harvey and members of the City of Barrie's Finance and Responsibility Governance Committee. Chief Johnson and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present the Barrie Police Services proposed 2026 operating and capital budget for the committee and council's consideration. Our intention is to be as transparent as possible and outline in as much detail as we can the financial pressures and opportunities impacting the Barrie Police Service. Many of the financial pressures we are experiencing are not unique to us and are being experienced by police services across the province. Items such as continued implementation of the Community Safety and Policing Act, changes in grant funding programs, a competitive marketplace, increased expectations, and general economic conditions are a challenge. The Barrie Police Board is responsible to constantly review the way we deliver service to the community, to find efficiencies, to explore all revenue and funding opportunities, to make strategic investments to minimize risk and prepare for the future, and ultimately to ensure our budget request and the Barrie Police Service provide adequate and effective policing to our city. Consistent with previous years, we have organized the impacts of the 2026 budget into 3 main themes: foundational policing, provincial impacts, and our growing and changing community. Foundational policing refers to the core of the Barrie Police Service, its members. The board has invested and will continue to invest in our members, allowing them to meet their responsibility to serve and protect our community, an investment for which we believe has resulted in a significant return, which we will expand upon shortly. Investments such as body-worn cameras recognize the positive impact the cameras have on transparency for both our members and our residents. Recently, after more than a decade, we upgraded our tasers, allowing us to provide safer, less lethal use of force option. We continue to implement new programs such as the virtual call response, digital automation, and leveraging evidence-based approaches. These changes allow us to be more efficient and utilize our resources without sacrificing the service we provide to the public. Officers can return to the road quicker, increasing our presence in our community. We are enhancing traditional training methods with virtual reality to create real-world scenarios that would otherwise be cost prohibitive. This blended strategy not only ensures our members are equipped to respond to new potential threats, but also provides more effective training for social disorder and mental health-related calls for service. Together with our service partners, we are working to build a social service campus and justice center to support the community alternative response and engagement team, a non-police emergency response with our community partners, the Simcoe County Paramedics, and the Canadian Mental Health Association of Simcoe County. And we are allocating resources to support victims through a trauma-informed approach. Finally, the investments the board has made in member wellness are paying dividends as we are reaping the benefits as we continue to be a leader in members returning to the workplace. Chief Johnson will expand. Chief?
Thank you, Chair. The service has implemented multiple wellness initiatives and programs to support our members both physically and mentally, including the Fitness Pin Incentive, Safeguard Program, Road to Mental Readiness, Reintegration Program, and most recently, the Mental Health Incentive and Anti-Stigma campaign. These programs run in conjunction with our health and wellness benefit package to ensure our members and their families are being supported both proactively and reactively to build resilience and protect both their physical and mental well-being. We had 71 additional members access mental health supports in 2024 compared to 2023. This is likely driven by the Mental Health Incentive and Anti-Stigma campaign that connects members with a mental health practitioner to establish a baseline relationship in case they're exposed to mental stress injuries in the future. Research demonstrates that investing in mental health supports results in substantial cost savings by reducing the need for more intensive and expensive interventions later on. It also increases a member's overall well-being and productivity and reduces lost time and healthcare costs. These investments in our member wellness are improving the health of our members, and the service is realizing the return on investment with one of the lowest percentages of members off work across the province. And our deployable officers reaching our authorized complement. Our members are better prepared to serve the community and respond to the various scenarios they will encounter on a daily basis. Sure.
Salaries and benefits represent approximately 94% of our total budget and include our collective agreement, all wage adjustments, reclassifications, promotions, transfers, premiums, and retirement provisions. Health and wellness benefits include our mental and dental support, CPP and EI, OMERS, life insurance, long-term disability, and AD&D coverage, all of which continue to increase and impact our budget. Asset and infrastructure renewal includes critical IT infrastructure, vehicles, equipment, radio and communications, hardware and devices, CCTV, and other specialized equipment replacements required to provide adequate and effective policing. All procurements are reviewed to ensure we are achieving the highest value for the dollar without sacrificing the quality and effectiveness. Useful life is extended and replacement is deferred wherever possible. Economic conditions include inflation, foreign exchange, and tariffs are having a direct impact on our budget as we enter into new contracts and procurement of products and services. Finally, through a comprehensive review, validation, and analysis of our budget, we have identified approximately $734,000 in efficiencies and savings. Overall, foundational policing, represented by the investment in our people and our equipment they need to serve our community, results in a 4.43% impact on our 2026 budget. The second theme of the 2026 budget presentation is provincial impacts. These represent financial impacts that are outside of our control and are being driven by changes in provincial government funding and implementation of new legislation. The most significant financial pressure we are experiencing as a result of provincial legislation is the increasing funding gap for the court security and prison transportation costs. As you can see, court costs have been increasing annually. However, provincial funding provided through the Court Security and Prison Transportation Grant is expected to decrease in 2026. The service is anticipating only a portion of the court costs will be eligible for the grant, and those eligible expenses will not all be funded. This equates to an estimated 44% of the total cost being funded by the province. The total funding pot of $125 million provincially is not expected to change and hasn't increased in over a decade despite heightened inflation and cost. The provincial funding gap is expected to increase by $1.25 million between 2025 and 2026 and result in a total funding shortfall of $3 million in our 2026 budget. It is important to note that Barrie represents less than half the criminal court cases in the Barrie Courthouse, and unfunded court security costs are borne entirely by the City of Barrie taxpayers, despite providing this service to several OPP detachments, other police services, and CFP Board military police within our region. Lastly, with respect to provincial impacts, the Barrie Police Service continues its implementation of the new Community Safety Policing Act. Financial pressures are being experienced primarily as a result of new training requirements across the service, increase in new mental health and crisis response training, and a significant increase in officers requiring incident command training. The Act also includes the requirement for additional safety equipment and uniforms. In total, the provincial impacts account for a 2.65% increase on the 2026 budget, with little ability of the service to influence. Chief Johnston.
For our last main theme, a growing and changing community. We want to spend some time outlining the various ways that growth and change are impacting the Barrie Police Service. When we think of growth, we think of an increasing population and more residents and visitors. And this is true. The population in Barrie has grown close to 3% each year for the past 2 years and is expected to grow at that rate every year until we reach 298,000 by 2051. We've also seen an increase in households of 1,768 between 2023 and 2024. However, the Barrie Police are being impacted by growth beyond just the increase in population. Even with this growth, the Barrie Police Service's strategic efforts to address crime harm in high harm hotspots has proven successful, with harm rates decreasing year over year. As the city continues to grow, we will continue to address the highest harm offenses, individuals, and high harm volume drivers. The scope of work for the Barrie Police Service is increasing, and this has a direct impact on resources. Sworn officers, special constables, and members across the service are required to plan, facilitate, respond, and engage in an array of activities throughout our community. As our vibrant city grows, our community plays host to a number of different special events, including concerts, air shows, and festivals, and more. Barrie is a regional hub and supports seasonal influxes of visitors and tourists from the County of Simcoe and beyond. Also, as I'm sure you can appreciate, the world we live in today is vastly different than in the past. The increasingly complex societal challenges, including the prevalence of homelessness, addiction, and mental health, has changed the way we must respond to our community. Finally, policing is one of the most heavily regulated industries, and we are evolving to ensure that we are providing transparency, privacy, and are demonstrating value and performance to our community. The complexity of calls for service and investigations are also increasing. The Barrie Police Service must adapt and expand our capabilities to respond to growing threats, including fraud scams, human trafficking, organized crime and auto thefts, increased major crime and intimate partner violence, illicit drug shops, and more sophisticated tech crimes, all while our communication channels are growing and changing, our court system is overburdened, and we are living in a time of increased cybersecurity threats. We must adapt and evolve, and we are. We are making the investments in our technology and platforms and equipment to respond with our changing times. Cybercrime incidents, ransom attacks, fraud scams, and impersonation attempts are more prevalent than ever. These cyber attacks have increased against local governments and more specifically towards emergency medical services and law enforcement agencies. These are close to home, with recent attacks against the Sault Ste. Marie Police, the Port Hope Police, RCMP in 2024, and the Kingston Police Force earlier this year. Also, the City of Hamilton in 2024, where the financial impact was $18 million. These cyber attacks can hinder both emergency and non-emergency systems, affecting our ability to provide service to our community for lengthy periods. They can result in significant financial costs to restore, rebuild, and adapt to identified security threats. The risk of a breach to police data, both operationally and reputationally, could have a significant impact on the credibility and public trust of the Barrie Police Service. In an effort to mitigate these risks, we are investing in critical IT infrastructure, security, and ongoing training programs. While many of the new initiatives to increase visibility in the downtown and throughout the city do not show up in calls for service, looking at our call volumes, we can see an upward trend, with 2023 remaining an outlier in the data. This is true even in consideration of the increase in commitment to proactive policing that strives to minimize the impact on victims, but also deter crime. The impacts from our growing and changing community result in both direct financial costs and increased demands on our sworn officers. Sure.
With the full year annualized for new staff hired in 2025, coupled with no funding available from any reserves and growth areas identified, the overall impact on our growing and changing community and our budget is 1.45%. The identified areas impacting the 2026 Barrie Police budget total 5.88%, plus an additional 2.65% to fund the provincial impacts, for a total of $78.4 million, or an 8.53% increase over 2025. Our budget does not include any increased property tax assessment revenue from the growth within the city. The board recognizes the significance of our budget request. Internally, we have strived to maximize revenue, find efficiencies, and defer needs where feasible. We continue to advocate our provincial partners for additional funding. The Barrie Police Service continues to see a rise in its call for service, and more importantly, an increase in the complexity of those calls and investigations, while our community continue to expect more of us. As of today, we've been able to obtain budget data from 17 police services across the province. Of those 17, the lowest was 4.9% and the highest was 20.5%, with an average increase of 10.2%. The board believes this budget request balances, as best possible, its obligation to be fiscally responsible while ensuring adequate and effective policing of our city. Thank you, Chair, and we welcome any questions.
Great, thank you. And do any members of committee have any questions? Councillor Kungle.
Thank you, through you, Chair Harvey. Thank you for the presentation, Chair Ferguson and Chief Johnson. I do have probably 3 to 4 specific questions, but maybe to start leading off, Chair Ferguson, I think into your summation of where the board has been around deliberations and being mindful of balancing your obligation with performance. So is there any additional perspective you can help us to appreciate around landing at the 8.53% through your deliberations at a board level? So I'm assuming this isn't your starting point, and maybe that's looking at sharing a little bit about, how did you look at reserves, or how did you get to 8.53, knowing that, within the ranges provided, maybe a bit more specifically about just how you arrived there and if you leveraged anything else along the way.
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Kungle. I can't tell you exactly where we started because that came from management, but they'll start probably a week after we finalize the budget. They worked throughout the year. The Finance Committee, our Finance Committee met first. I think the initial ask, I don't think the initial ask was at 11.2%. We reviewed that, and the board came back and asked for options. What does it look like without by reducing new hires, by when we hire those people, what time of the year, what time of classifications, and they presented with us 4 options, 11.2 down to the 8.53, and the board concluded that since we had gotten to our deployable, for those on council even before this term, we were down to 31 members below our authorized complement of 250. We were at 219 deployed of 250. Through hiring, more through our wellness programs and getting officers and members back to work, we have gotten to the full 250 authorized. So the board was of the opinion, now that we've got to our authorized, let's pause for a second and take a look at what that looks like. But at least we're now at our 250. So the board decided that the lower number of 8.53 for fiscal 2026 was sufficient.
Thank you for that. So I guess in a follow-up, so noting that I think in the cover letter to the budget, your complement, and as you said, Chief Ferguson, it remains at 250 sworn officers and 131 civilian staff. So at what point in time will that kind of, so while 250 was a target, through some conversations, my understanding is, 250 is, that's an amazing achievement, but also maybe not where police are forecasting the need based on population and or population growth. So if we're holding the line on sworn officers, do you see the conversation shifting a lot next year around, that becoming more of a pressure point because we are holding the line?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Kungle. Yes, part of the motion by the board to approve the 8.53 to present it to committee was that in fiscal 2026, we would do an analysis as to what the City of Barrie looks like in terms of authorized officers with the anticipated growth over the next 5 to 10 years. So that we anticipate receiving that analysis in 2026, and that will become a guideline moving forward. The 250 number, I believe, is 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old. So we have, and we solved the first problem. At least we got to the 250. Now the next question is, what does this city thinks it's going to need going forward? And we will have that answer. The board will have that answer in 2026, and that will then be layered into the budget process for future years so that we can anticipate a growth in both sworn officers and civilians.
Thank you. I appreciate that context, even for forecasting next year, because I thought it was dated from past year conversations and had been, again, as you say, a target we've always been trying to achieve, but maybe not an evergreen target, so it does need that assessment. My other question, and they may get a little, one's financial in nature and then maybe one's political. So I'll go to financial in nature because the other one might be more of an internal question that it gets moved to. It's probably the first time I've thought about what's in your budget, but those costs where you, as Barrie Police Services, support what happens in the city. And so I think coming more out of conversations about events recently and what does it take to hold an event. We want to be growing our large events. Police have a great presence there for things like growth of Kempenfest as an example and the Snowbirds. But my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that, well, at this time, do Barrie Police Services recuperate costs associated with supporting events through permits, or is it absorbed within your operations?
Through you, Councillor Harvey, I think I'll ask the chief. I believe we absorb it, but I'll confirm that with the chief, Chief Johnston.
Thank you, through Chair Harvey. It depends on the event. Okay. So for some events, there are paid duties, and that is cost borne through the permit system through the city. But we also have other large events. Obviously, something like the air show, where we were depending on external partner organization to assist. That is not.
If I may follow up, would it be fair to maybe it's a redirection to staff? Is that possible at this point in the presentations? Okay. Through you, Chair Harvey, maybe to CEO Prose. Do permits at this point in time require a conversation of like paid duty and recovery? So I guess my big picture thinking behind this is we have a MAT tax reserve, which usually gets bolstered by really beautiful events that we have. But if I assume that if the Barrie Police are not whole for expenses related to supporting events, we're seeing the ask come through taxpayer dollars through the budget, versus should we be looking at it differently around how we think about the MAT tax reserve being something that perhaps would be more appropriately aligned to services for events getting paid for through the revenue that's generated by those events. And maybe if it's fair through you to GM Schmidt, is that being looked at? And like for me, I'm seeing that there's not a clear line of alignment.
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Kungle. So Councillor Kungle, I can indicate that through permits, as Chief Johnson mentioned, for the paid duties, we do reimburse the Barrie Police. As it relates to your question about are we looking at the MAT tax to try to assist in the future, that is something that staff could consider. I'm not sure that we have at this stage, but it is something that definitely we can take a look at.
I appreciate that, and just because we have been talking about that and asking individuals that are behind events and event production to bring back kind of the financial sustainability plan, but I don't know if sometimes the MAT tax is asked for, but I don't know if it's really aligned to a full appreciation of costs, and I think we have been providing recovery of that cost, but in this case, police-related expenses have been coming out of the police budget if they're not covered by paid duty components. So I'd love that to be maybe looked at or thought about if we're maybe not aligning a reserve there that does fit around usage. And then my last question.
Actually, I'm just going to cut you off there because you're already at 4 questions and I'm just looking at the time, and I'll now go to Mayor Nuttall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to confirm some things out. One, and you've already said this and you answered a bit in the question, so I just want to be like very, very, very clear for the public. One, there was a request overall initially for the police budget for how much?
Financially or percentage?
A percentage.
8.53. Oh, to the original, sorry, yes. 11.2.
11.2.
Yes.
That 11.2 was essentially the lowest in any of our peers, as I understand it.
Yes.
And then we brought
Around the average at that time.
around the average at that time? Okay. Now it's lower than any of our peers by coming in in the 8s, is that correct?
Yes, and the 17 that we're able to survey and have been approved, we are below the average.
Okay. Between the budgets for 23, 24, 25, we had the same questions asked around the table, which were around sworn officers, what was the dedicated number, and how many were actually there. That number, I believe, started at 224 and 250, 250 being what was supposed to be, 224 being what was active, and slowly made it to 250 of 250. Is that correct?
Yeah. In 2022, we were at 219 to 250.
Okay.
So from January 1 of 2023 to now, we've grown from 219 to 250 deployable.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Chair, through you.
Thank you. So at the same time, when we had the request come in for more officers, and I'm on the board, so I just want to make sure this is clear, so everyone, if you didn't get to see or read or any of the stuff from the meetings, the request wasn't rejected to increase the dedicated amount, because the dedicated amount, I think, is a 2017 or 18 number. Is that right?
Through you, Chair Harvey. Yeah, yes, 2017, I believe, 2017.
2017. And in the years since 2017, the city's grown by, I mean, we're 8 years, 30,000 people? 30 to 40,000 people, and you have the same complement, or you were supposed to have the same complement, you actually had less than the 2017 numbers. And you've been asked, as we've discussed, to then bring the report on why the new dedicated amount should be the new dedicated amount, and then that will then translate into a future budget request. Is that all leveling out as to where we're at in the last 3-4 years on the dedicated officers and costs?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Mayor Nuttall. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And is there any other members? Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Harvey, and thank you, Chair Ferguson and Chief. I would love to give an opportunity to either the Chief or yourself, and a little bit along the lines of Mayor Nuttall's point. We were at 219, we're at 250, and that's not all through new hiring. And I think that we should actually promote the wellness of our officers that we've brought back, and the direction the board took to, really hone in on, the well-being of our officers because I believe we're second in Ontario in WSIB. I believe it's somewhere, and maybe even first, but I know we're in single digits where a lot of our comparables are in double digits. So I just want to give you the opportunity. As people are aware, I am on the board as well, so I've asked, a ton of questions already, so I think in light of time, but I just wanted to give the opportunity to speak to, to give the opportunity for you guys to speak about the wellness of our officers and the return to work to get to our complement.
For you, Chair Harvey, to Deputy Mayor Thompson. Yeah, as I noted, we're up 31 officers over the last 4 years, from 23, 24, 25. I believe we hired net new 12 officers. So that leaves us with 19 officers that we grew by getting officers back to work. I may be off by a year or so, maybe 15 to 15 approximately, but approximately half of the growth we were able to get from our actually deployed up to our authorized didn't come from new hires. It came from our officers getting back to work. Less officers off for less time, back on the road as soon as possible. So I made reference, and I know Chief Johnston made reference to the dividends. It was a priority of the board to, we had two options: just continue to hire to get to our 250, or to invest in our wellness programs. That was very strategic. It's probably 5 or 6 years old that we decided as a board where would be the best. The old model of just continuing to hire wasn't, in our opinion, sustainable. So we were able to pick up that gap in a very short period of time by investing in our wellness programs, clear communication paths between the senior command, the board, and the services association. We need to work in unison. I believe we do. Others don't. As to your percentage, Deputy Mayor Thompson, I think the chief's light. I think we are the lowest in the province. We're less than 2%. That is a significant number. When I talk to my colleagues, they're all in the double. I've heard a few in single digit, but the majority are in double digits, 10, 12, 14% of their service are off on legislative leave. We're less than 2%. That is two reasons. The members themselves are the most importantly. I think we've created an environment where the members want to come to work, work for Barrie Police. And when they need help, we've made a priority to give them help. And they know that. And we're seeing the dividends in getting our men and women back to work as quick as possible.
Maybe just end with a comment. So Chair Ferguson, I know the work you put into this board and all the stuff you do. And to the chief and every man and woman that serves our community, policing is expensive, but it's a much needed service. And I believe there's a group up here, that are from the BIA that are appreciative of the direction this council has taken with the visibility of police. And I want to thank everybody for what you do for our community. So thank you.
Thank you. And just before I go to members of non-committee, I have one question, and that's in regards to the costs around the court security and prisoner transport. Now, I know there's always been a funding gap, but obviously this year we're seeing a massive differential year over year when it comes to that funding gap. And I do appreciate the fact that you've highlighted, well, one of two things. Obviously, provincial funding is dropping by basically $1 million plus, and also to the fact that it's a provincial courthouse that only 40% of Barrie residents are going through. Has there been any discussions with our neighboring communities and or the county in regards to filling that funding gap, especially when it appears that Barrie taxpayers are funding the resources that non-Barrie residents are using?
Chair, I'll respond, and I'll give the chief an opportunity to. Specifically, myself has been speaking to members of provincial parliament directly about the problem. I've had those conversations personally about the situation we're in and that continued gap. So there's been that, if you want to call it lobbying or conversations, but I know the chief has had far greater conversations with others. So I'll defer to you, Chief Johnston. Thank you.
Chair, so we have had similar lobbying efforts as well with our members of provincial parliament because that is a provincial responsibility. We've certainly reached out to other police agencies. We haven't had direct contact with the county, but just with respect to the challenges we face, we're not the only ones, but we're one of the more rare ones. So across Ontario, there's 43 police services. There's 9 self-administered Indigenous police services. But of those 43, there's generally 12, 13 larger services that are regional. And regional services, for example, Waterloo Regional, all the criminal matters in their region generally are theirs because they're the police service of jurisdiction for the region. Whereas smaller services, we're a small to medium-sized service. Some of those very small services don't have a provincial courthouse in their jurisdiction. So we are one of those few that are, we're not as big as a region, but we're not as small as a very small one, and we do host a provincial courthouse. So we are aware there are some services that have approached their county, but again, it's so, the pressure this year, as you can see, has increased. And so we're exploring all avenues. And
thank you for your efforts on that. And obviously, I I'm shocked how low the percentage is with the Barrie residents, and I think it really highlights the fact that the city residents are funding something that's really not a city resource when you consider we're not even taking up 50% of the flow going through it. So thank you for those efforts, and I'm sure your continued efforts in trying to resolve that. Is there any questions from members of non-committee? Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Harvey. Just two quick questions, but I just want to pick up on what Deputy Mayor Thompson said. When I first got elected 3 years ago and we sat around the table and you presented, I was shocked at that gap between the sworn offices and the deployable, and seeing the impact that you've had in minimizing that gap, it's truly commendable. So great job on that. It is really well recognized. And I think even in other sectors, you know, whether it's healthcare or fire, everyone struggles with that. And so seeing the improvements in the wellness initiatives, I think there's a lot to be learned from that. So great job. Just a quick question around salaries. So seeing the increase here from 6.6% from 2025 to 2026, how much of that increase is contractually obligated?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Hamilton, 100%.
Thank you. And then just also a follow-up question on operating expenditures. So again, seeing a small increase, but 2%. Did the board give any direction, just given, you know, the City of Barrie, our direction has been hold the line, 0% on operating. Did the board give any specific direction in trying to hold the line specifically on operating expenditures?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Hamilton, not specifically to hold the line. Obviously, we looked at the savings. I think it's 734,000 that were identified that were an actual savings or reduction, and that was what we were concentrating on, what we could save.
Okay, fair. And then just last comment, I know we are above average when we actually look at that 8.5% compared to the list that you've provided here. I do wonder, I'm always just looking at Mayor Nuttall. I know we're doing well, but Halton, Waterloo, North Bay, Ottawa, London are all coming in with lower increases. And I just wonder in some of that background and outreach, if you can get an understanding of why they're lower and where they were able to find savings. Is there anything we can be learning from them, or are they just unique situations or different circumstances?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Hamilton, every budget's unique. It's almost impossible. Various factors, and I'll go through some of them. Are the reserve monies available? We have no Barrie Police Service has no reserve money. So we saw from the previous presentation, you can draw down your ask by drawing from your reserves. Our reserves were returned to the city in 2023, 2024. So that may impact their budget. That's probably the number one. Secondly, some services contract their capital differently than their operating. So their capital goes through the city's capital budget versus going through their operating budget. So it is difficult to be apples to apples. We thought we had a large enough sample at 17 services to say of the average it's 10.2 and here's the range. But to dial in would be a project. You'd be approving the 2026 budget late in 2026. But we do know that there's reserves, capital, and other things that can impact the overall ask of the municipalities.
Okay, fair. That's great. And I do want to note, I appreciate the board going back, starting point 11.2 and coming down to 8.53. I know that's not easy work, so I appreciate that. I think the taxpayers appreciate that. At the end of the day, nobody wants to hear 8.53 either. So I think these are always, difficult conversations to have. But that being said, I think we are heading in the right direction. And I think we've seen a lot of improvements and changes over the past couple of years. I think it's been a great working partnership. I think, residents have seen some of the improvements. I met with Barrie Fire the other day and they were seeing some of the improvements. Like, it really seems we're coming together. We're doing good work. So as much as these are tough decisions to make, and I know we all take a lot of heat kind of around the table sometimes with these different budgets. I am in support, and again, I just thank you for the work that you put into so far.
Thank you, and I'll just go back to Mayor Nuttall for a sec.
Yeah, thank you, and just to confirm, because I think it's a fair point that was made by Councillor Hamilton, but with regards to the zeroing out, can you share with with council how much your budget increases when there's a population increase. I know we kind of talked about this, but what do you get from a taxation increase in the city of Barrie?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Mayor Nuttall, the tax assessment base, the police service does not receive any of that or any other, development charges or anything like that. It's a straight budget request on an annual basis off of last year's approved budget.
So, and I know the question wasn't to me, so if you give me just a little leeway, please, Mr. Chair. When you look at our budgets and the operating budget, you'll see, I think, what was it, 6 million this year? 6.5 or something like that?
Through your Chair Harvey to Mayor Nuttall, you're referring to the assessment growth?
Yes.
For the city of Barrie, our assessment growth was budgeted at 6.2 million.
6.2 million. And so we have that built in. They don't. And so if you can imagine, if you hold it only at the salary cost increases, you are getting a reduction in service if there's nothing else that's given, just through inflation. Even if inflation's 2%, you're losing 2%.
And now I'll go to Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chair Harvey, and thank you, Chief Johnston and Mr. Ferguson and Chair Ferguson, pardon me. And I also appreciated having a chance to meet with police services and Deputy Chief Burke as well. So thank you for making time for council to have a lengthy discussion about all the details that go into your budget submission. One thing that I've got onto this asking, several years ago was the cop to pop ratio. And I think one thing that I think is important, and I understand from your position, there's no allocated number for police per 100,000 people, for example. But I do have and one of the reports it noted the national cop to pop average is close to 180, and the provincial is just over 170, and ours sits just comfortably at 150. And I noted also that you're looking at keeping that cop to pop ratio right through to 2030 as we grow. So I wonder if you could speak a bit about the plans to police Barrie at what seems to be a very reasonable, as we compare to the provincial and national averages, cop to pop ratio, and what that means. And maybe, I know there's also a calculation on civilian and what that ratio is, some of that built into the civilian component being increased over time as it relates to sworn officers. Thank you.
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Harris. I'll answer the last question first because it tends to be the easiest. The general rule in terms of sworn to civilian is 2 to 1. So for every time there's 2 sworn officers, you usually need to support those officers 1. And our ratio is right at 2 to 1, and that is it's fairly consistent across. Part of when we look at the cop to pop, it can be a distorting number because there's a lot of things that vary, and that was when we looked at this year's budget and we asked for that detailed analysis to come back to our sworn. There's lots of things that impact geography, crime rates, urbanization. There's a number of things, so you can have a lot of concentrated people in one effort that drives up or drives down the number. So we were looking for an analysis that took all that into consideration rather than just looking at the cop to pop, which is a very common barometer used. But in the board's opinion, it wasn't enough, and we need to look at far more than just the cop to pop to determine what we should have in terms of sworn officers to provide the adequate and effective policing to our city. So it's one tool, and I think there's probably a dozen that will go into that analysis. Not exactly sure, Councillor Harris, if I answered your question, but we are looking at it, but it's one of the aspects.
Yeah, thank you. Kind of did. I think, what's interesting is it'd be easy to make the argument to go much higher. And I think it's interesting to see that it's your cop to pop ratio with the growth will stay at the 150. So, and I'm sure there's metrics and measures that you use, and if I'm correct, am I able to say again that Barrie's among the safest cities in Canada to live again? Are we happy? Are we happy about that? Can we say that again, Chief Johnson? Does that still apply?
Through you, Chair, it is a very safe city, in a very safe province, in a very safe country. It's just perhaps we're influenced a little bit by social media to some degree. I appreciate crime will happen in any given population, but the reality is this is a very safe city because of investment in public safety.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I think it's important to make and I know it's one measure, the cop to pop. I think it's a pretty kind of like we get measured on property tax increase. It's a pretty important measure as far as just that sense of how much policing do you have, why do you have that amount, and it's nice, we can validate and explain why we can keep that rate, and it's a modest rate when I see the national and the provincial averages. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And I guess one piece out of that too to highlight is obviously a lot of positions have been civilianized, so that way there are more what they call boots to the ground out on the street, and there's obviously a cost savings in regards to that. Just in case people were wondering why a 2-to-1 ratio, it's not like there are administrative people for every 2 officers. It was a big change over the last decade from what I understand. Would I be accurate in that comment?
Chair Harvey, very accurate. We've looked over the Barrie Police Service, as most services, have looked for opportunities to civilianize positions. One of the most recent, I think, was in our comms department, and I think that's consistent with other police services, looking for opportunities to civilian. Do we need a trained, sworn officer to do a job? So absolutely, yeah, they don't have one of them driving behind every 2 of them to look after things. It is the civilianization of what, if you go back even 25 years ago, was being provided by a sworn officer.
Great, thank you. And I'll go to Councillor Corser.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. You've stolen many of the questions I was going to ask, actually, about the court services. First, I'd like to congratulate Barrie Police Services for doing such an amazing job in investing in the wellness of their officers, because I've seen the numbers have come down on members off work, now the members that are back to work, and I particularly appreciate the investment in wellness programs, considering it should translate to better decisions made in difficult situations by officers under pressure. But I do have, of course, the question about the court costs, which Chair Harvey had alluded to. Historically, how long has this breakdown of the province downloading these charges to municipalities been happening, considering that it is a provincial courthouse?
Chief Johnson's been at this a little longer than I have, so I'll leave that one to him.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair. It is legislated in the previous Police Service Act of 1990, when it was first passed, that if a provincial courthouse falls within your jurisdiction, that falls within the city to provide security services for it. But under the Community Safety and Policing Act, that is continued on. And so, as you can imagine, that's been I was going to say 30 years, but even more. So, oh man.
Okay, okay, thank you, because it doesn't seem like a very fair acquisition. Oh, sorry. Was there something that you'd like to add? No. Oh, okay. And for that, do we have a breakdown of the tab that we're picking up for other municipalities for where could these crimes happen, or even because I understand that the police services also looks after family court as well?
Through you, Chair. So while those statistics were accurate in terms of criminal case load that goes through the Barrie Courthouse, as you can imagine, the Barrie Courthouse is a very busy place. There's family court, small claims, civil court, a whole bunch of other things. And so with regards specifically to that, those were just the criminal court matters. Now, as one can imagine, it's the Barrie Courthouse, but it's the largest in the county, and so we do not. I don't have those the numbers with how many family court matters came from Barrie, and as you can imagine, where people live can fluctuate quite specifically in that area, can change quite drastically. So the reality is, it's when we looked at the numbers we could get, the criminal court cases were the primary driver for that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to sandbag you on that. Thank you.
No, fair
Uh,
question.
For the court transportation costs, I see that that is part of your responsibility as well. I thought that, I just maybe assumed that that would be under provincial because it would be the services, the police, I want to say jail guard, but that's not the correctional services that would transport people back and forth to court?
Through you, Chair, actually, the Ontario Provincial Police will do some of that transport for minors, for youth. That falls completely on the Barrie Police Service to transport wherever they're directed to go, and it's generally not in Barrie, and so we're driving people elsewhere or back.
Oh, good to know that we're the area Uber drivers. That's not very cool. Okay, and I just wanted to make a comment that as a municipality, we're not the only ones that are growing in the area. And I can imagine that as the funding gets cut for provincial funding to this court security and prisoner transportation they take away more funding on that. I can only see pressures raising on that front, and that's a conversation I think we need to have with the provincial government for sure. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other non-members of committee? Thank you very much for your presentation. I just ask, you've already had 4 questions. I'll ask if you take any other questions offline, because I'm looking at the time and we do have a few more presentations to go through. So with that being said, thank you for your presentation, and I can honestly say I've seen a remarkable difference in our downtown with a cooperative work that your team has done along with many service partners, including our city staff. So, and I'm sure there's still a lot more work to be done, but I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted the great work that everybody's been doing to make our city a safer place, especially here in the downtown. So thank you. And then moving along to 3.3, our next budget presentation is the County of Simcoe. And I'd like to call upon Trevor Wilcox, General Manager of Corporate Performance, Mina Fayez-Baguette, General Manager of Social and Community Services, and Jane Sinclair, General Manager of Health and Emergency Services of the county, to provide their presentation. And just before we get started, I will go to Councillor Kungl.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. With respects to this item and through engagement with the Integrity Commissioner, as I'm a member of the Alzheimer's Society of Simcoe County as a service provider and based on a matter in discussions with Simcoe County as a provider before council tonight, even though it's not for decision, it's in an abundance of caution that I declare a pecuniary interest and will not participate in discussion on the item. So I'll leave the room and just ask that I get called back when we deal with the budget. And I believe there's going to be a different motion on separating.
Madam Clerk, can you confirm that Councillor Kungl's pecuniary interest is noted?
Yes, Chair Harvey, it has been.
Great, thank you very much, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. I'm Warden Basil Clark, Mayor Nuttall, Deputy Mayor, and all of Council. Thank you for having us here. Leland Sibic, our Treasurer, is always here as well if we really get into the weeds. Trevor's going to do the presenting today just on the overview of the budget, but the rest of the team's here to answer any questions. I will quickly highlight the services because the names have changed. So the Community and Support Wellbeing was previously known as Ontario Works. Early Learning and Child Care System Management was previously known as Children's Services. Community Partnerships Policy and Business Intelligence was previously a component of Community Services, and now it's its own standalone. Community Housing used to be known as Simcoe County Housing Corporation, and Housing and Homeless used to be known as the Community Services Social and Housing Nonprofit. So the names have changed. They're good, they're on the board now. The funding has changed. Paramedics, of course, is the same. Long-term care is a change, but the funding model has changed, especially the capital portion, which Trevor will go over now.
Great, thank you, Warden Clark, and I do apologize. I was going off my notes here, and I'll be quite honest with you, I didn't spot you in the audience, so my apologies for not introducing you.
Not necessary.
Thank you, Chair. If we could advance, our thoughts were to keep things going crisply. We'll cut through the overview slides and go to the financials. We'll take any questions you have on the operating components. So if you could advance to slide number 11. So you can see our background information there. There's operating, yeah, that's the one. Thank you very much. So I just wanted to review the financial summary in terms of how the expenses are. We're in the process of drafting up a new shared services agreement based upon a few changes that were requested by yourself and the City of Barrie in terms of how to allocate things a little bit differently. So I'll go through that. This is the operating side of the budget, which shows the total service cost for all of the different areas, with the revenues coming in, the expenses, and the overhead costs for a total operating requirement. Because our expenses exceed the revenues coming in, we're funded for a number of areas financially from the province, and some other funding as well federally. So that is reflected in the revenue. This is the expenses. So this is the total cost to provide that service. It's our regional service. We operate these services as systems across the county. So this is what we then divide among the partners. So if we go to the next slide. Then the next slide is the allocation to each partner. Each of the areas is allocated based upon, could be a different method. Generally speaking, it's done based upon weighted taxable assessment. A couple of the areas specifically, if we look at community support and well-being, that's allocated based upon caseload, so the Ontario Works caseload. And then long-term care is all allocated using a combination of beds and weighted taxable assessment. So you can see that divides it up into the three partners to give the amount of operating requirements in there. So you're a 25% partner, 25.6 exactly, partner in the whole shared services that we're providing. Those costs also include any costs related to interest expenses that we have, if we have capital that we're borrowing, if we're borrowing for anything, and also contribution to costs related to asset management, which we'll get to in the next slide. So if we go to the next slide, this outlines the capital that we are anticipating spending for next year. So divided between each area. So we've got our community housing. There's a significant build going on in Barrie. So that is the top line there with the allocation of the capital that's committed, the total amount, and then each partner is committed to those. There is a column there called asset management. That's for the things that are like fix it, keep the operations going type capital. And that's where that contribution that I talked about will level out the expenses each year. And this is reflected on here so that we're not double counting exactly what is allocated to each partner. If you go to the next slide then. The next slide expands on that in the area of paramedic services and long-term care. So again, is broken down into the contributions by the three partners, what is covered by asset management, and then other is contributions from other funding sources. So that could be a provincial funding, it could be federal funding as well. And then we got a total there. Next slide, please. So the capital is going to change quite drastically in the new agreement. The way that we're doing it now, previously was totaling up the capital, and we had that extended over a 10-year time in terms of payments towards that, and there was an interest charged on that as well. This now, in the new shared services, the proposal is to reflect the payments towards the committed capital based upon a capital contribution number, which is based upon the life of the asset, essentially depreciation. So we're taking an accounting function. The large builds, for example, the Barrie Housing, et cetera, would have a 40-year life. So that would effectively extend that payment, and the contributions would be across 40 years. So that's why that you can see from a year-over-year perspective, there's a significant drop in terms of the amount of capital that is being requested this year, and that's using the new capital contribution methodology. So I think the next slide shows the total combined. No, sorry, the total combined was on that one. So sorry, the final column there shows the total combined. So year over year, we are dropping it. You can see that it's dropping just over almost $4.3 million. That's about a 10.9% drop. Going forward, I'm not going to see that each year. What we will see, though, is moderation in terms of the capital going up. So instead of the jumps that would go up because of capital all of a sudden hits in 1 year, it will be calculated based upon the life of the asset. So that'll moderate the amount of capital it's adding going up each year. And with that, we're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for your presentation. And I'll first go to Councillor Rietma.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. And thank you very much, Mr. Wilcox, for your presentation. I think all of us appreciate what the county does in conjunction with the city, and I certainly think that we're making some real progress in especially the homeless and the poverty areas. That's something that for sure I appreciate, and I think all of us around this table do. I guess one question that I have for you is, are there any services that the county provides in addition to what you've laid out here? Are there any services that the city gets for free, if you will?
You're looking for a hand. Sorry, through you, Chair. In terms of what we support the region. So I would say overall, our service is a regional service. So when we're thinking about how we're putting our services forward, it's a system that crosses the region. The analogy that I have is if you look at the City of Barrie, you're not providing city services by ward. You provide transit across the wards. Various wards would have different amounts of transit, different amounts of even libraries where you put them, that kind of thing. So where we put our services is where they're needed. To your point directly, though, Councillor, there are a couple of services that are funding or things that benefit Barrie that are funded directly by the county. I would point to a few. The Hospital Alliance, we do fund a Hospital Alliance fund, which will contribute to the various hospitals across our region. RVH is one of them for capital projects, and GM Sinclair could speak directly to some of the projects that have been funded. We also fund an post-secondary education fund. That has funded projects at Georgian as well as Lakehead University. And we are funding $5 million towards the Barrie YMCA build as well. Those are not touching any dollars that come from Barrie residents. Those are from just the residents outside of Barrie, that funding. If you were looking at other services that are being provided that don't impact Barrie residents very much, there would be a number of our services that are fully funded or that are funded through other vehicles. We have a PAD program that's self-funded, as an example, our defibrillator program. So some of those are provided, but to all residents, not just Barrie residents, like the whole of county residents, with very little or no impact on the levy. I hope that helps. Thank
you. Yes, thank you. That helps. And of course, I mean, the city also contributes to RVH and contributes to the Y and all those other facilities that you mentioned. We're in the process, I take it, of discussing a new agreement in terms of shared services. Can you enlighten us as to where that stands at this point and where we're going with that?
Through the chair, yes, absolutely. We've had a number of discussions through our staff liaison group with staff at both City of Barrie and the City of Aurelia. We've got to the point now where I think we've got a methodology that we think will work. We are adjusting the actual agreement language to reflect that. We've got a meeting with both cities next week to go through that, and then hopefully that will be brought forward to our three councils for ratification.
One last one. I'm sure you were listening with interest in the discussion with the police, especially the chair's question about the $3 million shortfall for the courthouse. That citizens of Barrie, roughly 40% use it, and 60% are used by services are used by people outside of the city of Barrie. Do you foresee a possibility of amending our agreement to pick up some of that cost at the county level? And the reason I'm asking that is it seems that something like 60% of that cost, that shortfall of $3 million, is attributable to people who don't live in the city but probably live out in the county. And I'm just suggesting something like that to you. The county of Grey and the separated city of Owen Sound, very similar kind of arrangement, where the courthouse is in the city. They have exactly that kind of arrangement. So would you be open to that?
Through the chair, I can't commit council to that, but I can commit to bringing that kind of discussion back. I don't know, Warden, if you want to speak to that.
We're always open to having those kind of discussions and see. Now, again, I'd want to know the percentage coming from Simcoe County and how many are coming from Toronto or other region as well. But certainly, we're always open to any type of discussions where we can explore partnerships and pay into it. So,
thank you. That's it.
Obviously, we'd need more information.
Sure, but I'm very much appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I'll now go to Mayor Nuttall.
Yeah, thank you. I'm first of all, I'm going to start with a surprise and say I really, really, really do like the change on the capital side, and I think a thank you is due. It's something our city staff, I think, were contemplating for a while. It's something that I know I brought up, I think, the last two budgets, and it is going to level out, just as you say, the capital requirements coming from the city. So I want to say, Trevor, to you and your team, and to the warden and his team, thank you for bringing that forth as part of the proposal for a new agreement.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, one other thing I forgot to mention that I think you'll like. We have looked at children's services. That was one of the areas when we did the value for money audit. And we're proposing changing the way that's allocated now to a weighted taxable assessment, which I think would align better with how the service is managed anyway, and the way it's been changing over the last short while as well. So that will help.
Awesome, thank you. A few just on the services. There are I guess the things that you fund that are not part of our agreement. I think it's important to just level set. The city also funds those things. We put, I believe it was $52.5 million into the RVH initially, and are contemplating a rather large contribution again. What are we at on Lakehead, Mr. CAO? Do you know what we're at in terms of costs?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Mayor Nuttall, I think that we were around $20 million, Mayor Nuttall.
Around 20 million. And then we also gave $7.5 million to Georgian as well, recognizing those are things that are happening in our city, right? And so we should be the lead contributor, but they also benefit everybody in the greater area. So there's a memo from city staff, because I think one of the things that I voiced a little bit of frustration with was with the changing proposal for the agreement, you're kind of, it's difficult to go apples to apples because it's just different, right? So they spent some time with your staff and then spent some time, I think, educating me on it as well. And so we end up this year on once you've kind of zeroed everything out, the interest is moving from the capital side to the operating side. You have the $2.4 million asset management piece that's a new thing. And so overall, it becomes what appears at just first shot as a 20.8% increase is actually 12.1% increase on just the cost of the City of Barrie's portion of the services. Have you been able to see that number from us, or no? Have you seen that memo?
No, through the chair, sorry. No, I haven't. That doesn't ring a bell, 12%. We did look at that and tried to normalize the number from last year to make those adjustments, and the calculation that I got was about a 3.6 or 4% increase, not anywhere near 12. And that number actually will go down a little bit when we make the adjustment for children's too. It'll be closer to 1, even or even less.
Okay, the total, here's where I think that this is coming from. So the total last year in 25 was $39 million, just over $39 million. And then we have the total in 2026 at literally $44 million and $10. And so the change is $4,757,000 for a 12% increase. That, I think, has the, unless I'm misreading, and Mr. Schmidt maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Mayor Nuttall, and to members of council. So the memo that staff put forward for this afternoon was to try to provide a comparison between 2025 versus 2026. I believe in the presentation that was provided by the county this afternoon showed you what was the 2026 request under the new municipal service agreement. What staff have tried to provide for you in the memo was basically an apples to apples comparison, if you will, whereby looking at 2025 versus 2026 under the current municipal shared service agreement, to Mayor Nuttall's point, we've arrived at a 12.1%. So under the current agreement, essentially it looks like about a 12.1%, subject to further discussion with the county. Under the proposed or the new agreement, we again did some reconciliation to determine what the starting point was for 2025 versus what was presented here tonight from the county for 2026, which arrived at a $1.5 million increase, or a 4.4% increase. So again, trying to compare under the current agreement versus the new agreement, which is what was provided for in the memo.
So those numbers, I think, all align. And where I guess, because we don't have the motion on the floor, right, for the service partner budget. So I won't comment at this point. I'll wait till afterwards. The question I would have is the new portion of that, whether you're using the old system or the new proposed system, what wasn't previously there, because the interest, I think, of 1.9 or 2 million got moved across, is the 2.267 asset management contribution. That's fair to say that's a new thing or an increased thing?
Through the chair, that is just moving from capital to operating. So we included that in our ask related to standard operating. That's why in the chart that I showed, we're funding the asset management capital from that. So that is not going to be in the charge for the capital.
Okay, so that was already happening previously?
Previously, it was all combined in the capital.
but I guess, like, forget where it was for a second, if that's okay. It was previously 2.2 or ish, and then and now it's just being shown under operating, but there's no change really in that
Through
number?
the chair, there's no significant growth. There's a little bit of change because the estimate plan goes up and down a bit. We've updated costs, but other than that, no, there's not a significant change.
Okay. Yeah, I'll hold my comments for the actual time when we discuss it.
Great, thank you. And just before I go to members of non-committee, I've got two questions that I'm sure are probably somewhere within these budget lines, but obviously at a high level, it's not jumping out at me. So the first is in relation to paramedic services. I know I've had a few discussions over the past few years about a possible expansion into Southwest Barrie. I was just wondering if there's any update from a capital plan perspective when we could anticipate any expansion southwest, or to be quite honest with you, southeast, because I know it's another growing area also.
Thank you for the question through you, Mr. Chair. We are planning to build a new post in the southwest region of City of Barrie in 2026. We're also planning to procure an additional property in the central region of the City of Barrie for future post development. And we are looking at the development of the final post in the City of Barrie in the southeast in 2028.
That is great news. And my other question is in regards to the $10 daycare funding. And again, what sparks this question is being reached out by a provider that wanted to open a rather large daycare in my ward. However, during 2025, there wasn't any additional funding available. So do you anticipate in 2026 that additional funding is going to be available for additional spots, and obviously specifically for the City of Barrie? And if you want to talk about globally for the county, that would be great too.
Through you, Chair Harvey. So for 2026, that number is being allocated as we speak in 25. The final year of the 6 years of the Seawell program to get us down to $10 a day. So the City of Barrie is receiving spaces in the 2026 allocations. I can't speak specifically to the agency that wasn't successful in 25, whether they'll be successful in 26. We're also we got a considerable increase in 2025, right at the beginning of the year, of an additional 1,900 spaces, and we were able to optimize or activate most of them in 25, and then the remainder in 26, moving our number up from just over 3,000 to almost 5,000, just under 5,000. So that was a really good news story from the provincial government. Additionally, right now the provincial government is undergoing another recalibration for the last year. And again, we're advocating for more space. And as well, the City of Barrie, along with 4 other member municipalities, are considered prioritized growth areas. So they're the ones those areas are prioritized for spaces accordingly.
Great, thank you. And is there any members of non-committee that have any questions? Councillor Harris.
Yeah, I'll just be very quick. Thank you, Chair Harvey. Through you to the delegation. Just curious, we just had 2 presentations, and one thing that was really helpful was the bottom line, what's the increase expected for Barrie? Am I missing it, or is it in the presentation, or is it not there, the percentage of increase you're asking for your budget this year?
Thank you. Through the chair. As the mayor noted, it's a kind of apples and oranges comparison. Because we are changing the agreement. So that's where staff was trying to rationalize where things are sitting. But if you look at the pure dollars from last year to this year, bottom line, the initial number that we have out there is a decrease of 10.9%. That will actually go down a little bit more because of the changes that we're making in children's services. But it's a drop, not an increase this year. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because that's curious, because that would have been a really interesting thing to have in the presentation. If it was a drop, that would be pretty exciting for everybody to hear that the county has reduced the amount the city is paying. Anyway, I know there's other questions about this, and with it not being there, it feels like a big miss or a big change. And I understand there's changes in how you're showing, the costs and the services that we receive from the county. But that seemed to really be that. What's the bottom line? What's the impact then on the Barrie tax rate? It kind of feels like it's unknown. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And I'll go to Councillor Nagusi.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. Thank you for the presentation. I just have one question for clarification. On slide 8, under the housing and homelessness funding priorities, why is the City of Barrie receiving $0 in provider loan funding in 2026 despite ongoing affordable housing projects? And how are funding priorities demanding among Barrie, Orillia, and the county?
Through you, Chair Harvey. Thank you for the question, Councillor Nagusi. So this program is a loan-based program for each nonprofit housing provider already in existence. It's not a net new development program. And what happens is as the nonprofit organizations end their federal operating agreements, legacy 30-year mortgages with us, we enter into a loan-based program to extend the affordability. And it's really a timing thing. Each year, a certain amount will expire, and then we engage into a new agreement. So this year, there are no expiring agreements in the City of Barrie. Last year, there was a significant amount in the City of Barrie, so this is probably why this year there isn't that many. And we anticipate in 27 and 28, the remainder of the ones in Barrie will begin to expire.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. And any other members of non-committee? Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Harvey, and I'll direct it to Mina. First of all, the services provided to the city from the county for things such as the community services and now housing and homelessness. We've changed that. I'm not going to ask you how much that affected the budget, all these name changes, but nevertheless, I don't think anyone would have imagined 10 years ago that this city, this province, this country, this planet would be affected so much by the issues that we are seeing. And I feel that we are seeing many successes, and I congratulate you and your team for doing what you have done. I mean, I see it specifically in Ward 2. But I have two questions for you. The first one being, and I think, what is it? Is this your third year in?
Third next month.
Third next month. Well, congratulations. I remember. Yeah, the first question is going to be, what do you feel if there's a single thing that you find most encouraging in your job now, just looking around? I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there anything in particular that you find encouraging about the situation?
Through you, Chair Harvey, thanks for the question, Councillor Nixon. Feels just like yesterday. I would say, to be honest with you, there's so many things to pick from. I think the level of collaboration happening at the municipal level is incredible. The level of engagement on a local level from elected officials, community members, the private sector, the nonprofit sector is something like I haven't seen before in the last 20 years I've been doing this. I would also say the level of investment from our upper tiers of government, both federally and provincial, has been quite significant in this area. And the things that encourage me are heart hub stories that I'm getting every day, where someone who's been battling addiction for 10 years is not only finishing recovery and treatment, but being housed permanently in supportive housing and being cared for and is stable. Like, I think those are the things that are quite encouraging. Breaking ground on the largest affordable housing development in the history of this region was a pretty big milestone. So, there's lots to pick from, for sure.
Okay, thank you very much. And on the flip side of the coin, what do you feel would be the most challenging thing that you and your team face?
Well, sorry, through you, Chair Harvey. I would say, we just passed a 10-year plan yesterday on our affordable housing strategy and homelessness prevention strategy, and we are being as ambitious as we can possibly be. The concern is, will we keep up with the pace of the need? We are growing communities for sure, and we know that. We're seeing it all across the county and here at the City of Barrie. And with the growing population comes growing social challenges and needs, and we hope that our strategies are keeping pace with those needs. So that's probably the one that keeps me up at night.
Very well, thank you very much.
And I'll just make one last call. Any other members of non-committee? Great. Thank you very much for your presentation, and congratulations on a successful 3 years, because I'm sure it probably feels like 10.
Thank you, Council.
And with that being said, we'll move along to 7.2, the 2026 business plan and budget service partners, but we'll just wait a moment until Councillor Kungl joins us before I get someone to put it on the floor. Yeah.
Come here. Go away.
Okay, great. Actually, we've just sorted out some technicalities here because of Councillor Kungl's pecuniary interest. So if I could have a member of committee put the 2026 business plan and budget service partners on the floor, please.
Through you, Chair, I'll put the motion on the floor as printed, and I have an amendment.
Great, thank you. And actually, before we do that, could I have a member separate section 3, which is the County of Simcoe's section of the budget, please?
I'll separate paragraph 3, the county Simcoe ask due to a pecuniary interest of Councillor Kungl.
Oh, and actually 8 also includes the county too, please.
Sorry, so it's paragraph 3 and 8.
Great, thank you. So we will deal with paragraphs 3 and 8 first, and Deputy Mayor Thompson, I'll give you the floor first if you so wish.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have any comments or anything in regards to 3 and 8. So I'll just put the motion on the floor as printed as it already is.
Yep, Mr. Chair, I just think we should, if we can vote on the separation out before we.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. Yeah. So with calling the vote on separating sections 3 and 8, all those in favor? And that passes. Actually, it's just members of committee voting, just for everybody's awareness.
I love your
And with that being said, Mayor Nuttall, I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think there's a bunch in here. We've been going through. One of the nice things about the change in the way this is being done is it really causes us to dig in and go through numbers, et cetera, and really come out the other end with where we believe we're at as a city with the county's proposal. And so before we get going into this year's budget, I just want to stage set for members of committee and members of general committee and council that are here. So Mr. Schmidt, if I can go to you, going into the 2026 budget deliberation, what is the amount, what's the deficit inside of the contribution to the county reserve or account?
For the through you, Chair Harvey, to Mayor Nuttall, we're currently investing we're planning on putting 8.25 million into capital, the county capital reserve. We've also included 5 million that's being transferred from the tax capital reserve to try and shore up the reserve long term. But that's a one-time payment, so it would be 8.25 million, and then it would increase again by 1.5 million next year.
So today, is there a deficit between in that reserve going into the 2026? And if so, how much?
Requests. I think there's around a $5 million deficit.
Okay, and that will then turn into a $10 million deficit with the additional 5 million coming from the tax capital reserve?
Yeah.
So there's a $10 million currently, and I want members of committee and council to hear this. There's currently 5, there's going to be another 5, a $10 million payment made by the city to the county, which was not taxed to the residents.
That's correct, yeah.
So the increases by the county, right, the city reserves have been covering off. And that's going to increase. Now, where there's some real gain, and I think some real opportunity that's been realized by the proposal by the county, was that they've allowed us to amortize out the draws over the life cycle of whatever the asset is, instead of having it on a 10-year amortization period no matter what. That means if it's a building, maybe it's 35 or 45 years versus 10 years. What you've got in front of you in this budget, because I really think this is important, is not even though it's coming to us as, oh, it's a 10.9% decrease, it's not a 10.9% decrease in spending or expenses, okay? It's an extension out of how long you can pay it over, okay? So spending is increasing. We can pay it out over a longer period of time, reducing the effect in this year. So we've got to be, I think, this needs to be visible, it needs to be transparent, because part of, in fact, the name of this committee is good governance. It's finance and good governance. We're dealing with finances tonight. We need to know where we're at. We need to know what the decisions are that we're agreeing to with the county, what effect they have. And we also need to be clear with the public and transparent with the public. When we say there's a decrease, there's not a decrease in spending. There's a decrease in the ask because of the extension out. And when you couple that with the fact that we already had a $5 million deficit, meaning we're not collecting enough taxes, at some point over the last 10 years, would you say that, Mr. CAO, it's about 10 years since this new system came in to deal with the county expenditures?
Through Chair Harvey to Mayor Nuttall, probably just under 10 years, yes, Mayor Nuttall.
Okay. So let's just say over the last 10 years, we have been actually covering off county costs to an average tune of $500,000 a year. And then we look at the budget for this year, and it's a 12.1% increase, or 4.4 if you take their system. Hopefully it's 1.5 if they're able to bring the changes on the children's services. But make no mistake, this is a budget that's out of control for the city of Barrie, for the citizens of Barrie to afford, and that's why we're in a deficit position. And I want to add in there more context. There have been, as you heard tonight, massive contributions from the provincial government to the county of Simcoe to the tune we've never seen before. While we're seeing our court costs go up because of provincial downloading, they're seeing massive provincial influx of funds to deal with some of the issues that we see on the streets. So the budgets are they're not just expanding in terms of what the city owes or the city pays because we've extended out the time period, but they're also expanding because the province is pouring a whole bunch more money into the county of Simcoe. And I'm really frustrated that it takes so long, and I'm just being super honest here. I'm so frustrated that it takes so long to understand their budgets. I'm frustrated with the lack of communication on the budgets, and I'm frustrated with some of the services. If they fix the children's services, great. Where's our long-term care beds? Like, you know, I'm going to say this isn't a fact and it's not happening, but, you know, like, why does Judy Nuttall have to go to Elmvale to get a long-term care bed? She's not going to a long-term care bed, but if she did, why? Like, it's, what is it, 2 point something million this year? 2.5 million, 2.3 million, something like that. And you put that back over the last decade, like, it's going to be $20 million with literally 0 beds in the city of Barrie. Like, I am very frustrated with this. So as we're going to move forward, like, I'm not even, because it's taken so much work and time to get to the point where we actually understood what the budget proposal was and what the new proposal was from the county, I'm not even prepared tonight to go full in and say I won't be having amendments coming next week, or others might be moving amendments next week because I'll be in the chair when we're general committee. I really think that we've got to take stock, and I really don't believe that we should be signing a long-term contract with the county as a service manager. And I think that Councillor Rietma, you nailed home the point on rising costs that are, call it equally responsible, the county's equally responsible for in court services. And at some point, there's got to be an actual accounting, because I'm still struggling to understand. I'm a banker by trade, and I'm struggling to understand how their budgets work, how their budgets are spent, what the effects are going forward, what the effects have been over the last 10 years to get to this $5 million deficit. I think one of the pieces of good news in this is that we managed to somehow hold $5 million of taxation down and not go to the taxpayers for that and pay it off to the county without anyone around this table really noticing. And that's a good thing, and that's part of a good news story. But our staff have been crushing themselves over the last 4 years, I don't know, it's 3 years, but call it 4 budgets, to make sure that they can deliver a 0% on the operating, and it feels like it's not even being tried for. It's like it's not even being tried for. Ballooning, massive increases of provincial funding, and still coming back for more and more and more. And I'm venting in public, which is probably never a good thing to do. But I've done enough venting behind closed doors and asked enough questions in other meetings and gone to our staff enough times. So while this is what we're getting from the county budget, I'm going to ask Mr. Schmidt some questions about city budget this week. He's been going back and forth with me, and I appreciate that, Mr. Schmidt. It must be frustrating getting those 8 p.m. text messages about charts and numbers. So while we've got the frustration on this side, tell me, since 2021, what's happened with the debt in the city of Barrie? What was 2021 and what's today?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Mayor Nuttall and members of council. So our debt has improved has gone down essentially by $85 million since 2021.
From roughly 303 million or something like that, 304 million?
Over 300 million.
And at the same time, our reserve balances, what were they in 2021?
So our reserve balances, but I can tell you our reserve balances have improved by $171 million over that same time frame. So essentially, the net financial health or condition of the municipality has improved by approximately $258 million in the last 5 years.
So between 2021 and 2025, we've seen it go from literally a negative ratio of reserve assets to debt into a very, very, very positive place. And we're doing all of that, holding it at zero, covering off for the county, and still the county comes back for more, and we don't understand necessarily how they get there. That's a problem. That's a problem, because I don't know how to hold an organization accountable that I don't see the transparency from to be able to get there. So I'm gonna give the floor now, but I think there's got to be some clear direction for our negotiating team in the city going forward as to what needs to be included, what needs to be excluded, and how we're going to get to a place from where we are to a transparent budget process each and every year.
Thank you for that, Mayor Nuttall. That was really peeling the layers back, let's say, to really help, A, the public understand what's going on, and also to all of us around the council table. And I appreciate all the work that you've done, and obviously you sit at county committee to be able to see that every few weeks live itself. With that being said, is there any other comments or discussion around sections 3 and 8 of the budget? Councillor Reitman.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. And I realize that I don't have a vote at this juncture, but will at General Committee. And I would like to have a little bit of direction on how we deal with this agreement, especially with the courthouse. Is it something that's appropriate for us to move an amendment at some point this year for this budget to say, hey, we reduce what we're paying to the county by $1.8 million so that it's their share? Or is that something that we should leave for another year? I think it's a little early for me to figure that out, but I would like to have some discussion with staff and with other members of council on that before next week.
Great, thank you. And Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. Maybe just picking up on something you said, and certainly I appreciated Mayor Nuttall's comments. I think, the presentation, and we asked if they were to come back, I would ask them to do a presentation that the public can understand. I think what they presented was very difficult to understand, and what are the services that we receive and that we pay for? How will they change? How will they evolve? It was not a very clear presentation, and I think that's and I won't repeat what Mayor Nuttall said. He said it exceptionally well, but that's a challenge that I see. And you made a point about it being the public for the public. That wasn't for the public. The public would not generally receive that and say, okay, that made sense to me. I understand what they're doing, where they're going, and where the costs are. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for highlighting that too. And obviously they said to save time, they only glossed over a couple of slides when the complete presentation was only 16 slides, and it's not like we're under that much pressure for time. We've got all evening. So with that being said, though, I will call the vote on sections 3 and 8 of the budget. All those in favor? And that passes. And then I guess we'll get Councillor Kungl to come back while we deal with the remaining sections of the budget. Welcome back, Councillor Kungl. We completed sections 3 and 8 of the county's portion, and the rest of it is on the floor. Is there any comments from any members of committee? Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Just to start off, I have an amendment, or actually a deferral motion, and then we could start with the rest, if that's okay by you.
Go ahead.
That the budget request from the Barrie Area Physician Recruitment, which is paragraph 6, be deferred to the Finance and Responsible Governance meeting, January 2026, for further consideration and discussion.
Okay, and just to double check, Madam Clerk, deferral is debatable, correct? It's a referral that's not.
Correct.
Great, thank you. And any further comment on that at all, Deputy Mayor?
Actually, I had some concerns with it, but it was great that the member that sits on it is Councillor Hamilton, and we had spoken. There's going to be some further discussion, and I don't know if people are aware, but it's like a 3 times the ask. So I think a better business case, and one thing that really highlighted in the request was no guarantee of a physician. So it's an awful lot of money for hopes and dreams. So I think that'll be a little more information and a call with Mayor Nuttall and Councillor Hamilton with the CEO of the hospital, which is part of this. We'll get some information needed before we make a decision.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Nuttall.
Yeah, can I just ask, is it for the increase or is it for the total amount that you're deferring?
The way I have it is the whole thing would be, would you be comfortable giving the last year's, leaving the last year's increase or request in and the increase be deferred? Yeah, I'll take that. Is that, do you have that, Madam Clerk? That the original 60,000 be part of the budget deliberation and the request for increase be deferred to the next finance?
Through you, Councillor Harvey, I'm assuming you are withdrawing your original request and just replacing it with the one you just said?
I love when you read my mind.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any further comment around the deferral? Okay, with that being said, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that passes. And any further discussion on any other pieces of the budget? Councillor Congal.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. Through you, it was a more political question I had, which I believe we usually direct to the mayor. So it's specific to the Barrie Police Services budget component of the conversation around transportation and drop-off. So I think in the part of the conversation, there was some context about different realities of police services depending on, one, whether or not you've got a provincial court, and two, jurisdiction, right, regional or not. I'm assuming that this is maybe a more common conversation happening across multiple municipalities at this time of year with that type of information, that is probably landing as part of the budget deliberation. So I didn't know if this has a place at big city mayors or is relevant to a portion of those 27. And if that is part of a conversation, because I think the reference was over $1 million just as an increase in 2026, but overall $3 million shortfall. And without getting into service providers and County of Simcoe, other municipalities, and 56% not related to City of Barrie related residents or resident situations before the courts. Regardless of that conversation, it's still I believe inherently a provincial lens. So I didn't know if that was being moved to the province through you, Mayor Nuttall, and or through the big city mayors.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it on the big city mayor's agenda as of yet. That doesn't mean it won't be there. I would also, when you're outside of big city mayors, highlight that the OPP is a major player across the province, and there was just some pretty massive checks written by the province to the municipalities that have the OPP. So we are in this weird situation. Like I think that this isn't necessarily the norm, because as either the chief or the chair said, the regional governments oftentimes are the ones who are picking these things up. In this case, you've got a single lower tier that's picking it up for a region, right? So the other piece I would say is I think that oftentimes we get lost in the provincial thought structure of how municipalities are structured. Because we aren't part of the county and we are single tier, yet we are part of the county when it comes to certain other things. And so where governments will claw back on X, let's call it prisoner transportation, right? And then throw more money at Y. And, it might be a net increase of 5% overall. In this case, it feels like we're getting the clawback in Barrie, and there's a whole bunch of funding going to other things that actually don't come to the city of Barrie. And so we're kind of getting the worst of both sides, if you will, right? And so I'll ask if other mayors, Guelph would be in I believe in exactly the same space, or do they have a different, they have a Guelph police force, yeah? Yes. They do? Perfect. But not many others would be in the exact same place. Kingston? So it might be one of those things where we got to find the others that are affected the same and then go and see the minister or the premier or whoever it is about it to say, hey, we're not getting the benefit here and we are getting the download there.
And then may I ask one more piece? Are we going to see, do you have any intelligence at this point in time with some of the conversations happening more in the media about legislation changing or focus on court services and different other legislation that might be an active conversation but might move in year around, will this just become more compounded, although we're estimating a $1 million increase on top in 2026? My imagining is that this is a focused area of attention around doing more, which might result in greater expenses, I would imagine. Hopefully there's a right sizing of that with that conversation, but I'm assuming this is at minimum what we're going to see, but likely there's going to be a lot more in year.
Thank you for going past the question. I thought you were going to stop at, do I have any intelligence? And so thank you for going past that. The deputy mayor might actually have a better position to be able to answer the overall question than me. Takes the lead on a lot of the police-related matters. Before I refer to him, I would just say, we're seeing major cost increases related to provincial policy changes in the policing area overall. The change in the act, I can't remember the numbers, but he might. But there are some major changes that have come that are costing big dollars. And when you add next gen 911 and all the stuff, it adds up,
Deputy Mayor, did you want to touch on that?
Thank you, Chair. There's no legislation that I am aware of, but this, in the last 3 years, it's gotten worse with the shortfall. I believe in 2022, we got grant funding, which made us whole. But then it seemed to have dropped off. I know that there was some catch-up money, I guess, when we submitted the shortfall, but we haven't seen that probably in the last 2 to 3 years. I think we got a little bit in the first year, but it still left us short of probably about 700,000, but it's increased the shortfall, and it's too bad it's legislated because people run households. When you run out of money, you close the door, and maybe that's the way to, you wish that you could, when the allotted money that we receive to perform the service was there. When you run out of money, there's no court service, and then you would get backlog and stuff, and they would understand what they're doing to the taxpayer of Barrie. But there's nothing I see or haven't heard of any new legislation. But I do know the board and the police are lobbying to maybe have it uploaded again, which it originally was in 1990 or 89, I think. It was downloaded to the municipality. And I know there is some conversation in regards to that.
And while I have the floor, my final maybe comment, I didn't see it and I wasn't going to ask for it to be repackaged in a particular way, but maybe next year as we move through kind of the impacts of this and Barrie Police go through their analysis of sworn officers and components is how we talk about a position. So not just in salary, but knowing that it's coming through massive regulations. What is the cost of an officer, not just in salary and benefits, but in regulatory training, equipment, body cam pieces? But like when we think about a position, what comes with that position as a minimum cost?
Yeah, thank you. And maybe just to put a little bit of historical context to this, because obviously I spent 35 years in policing. So back in the day, when the Police Services Act existed in 1990, there was a lot of downloading, and even all the provincial transports to the provincial jails were done by municipal police services. Then in recent years, the OPP took most of that over. However, as the chief alluded to this evening, there's still a lot of other transports that are being conducted by municipal police services and then hopefully being billed back to the province. But where the other piece is that's always caused a shortfall is the fact that you're having to provide constables and special constables in the courthouses as security on top of doing the other transport pieces. And ever since the Police Services Act came about, there's always been that provincial shortfall, but not a year-over-year difference like we're seeing in their presentation tonight. And that's a significant thing that, like, I mean, if that's the trajectory that things are on, it's not sustainable. And yes, under the new legislation, because the Police Services Act was replaced in 2024 with the Community Safety and Policing Act, and there was a lot of additional provisions that have put financial pressures on police services right across the province. So it's kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to dealing with that. Is there any other questions or amendments or anything in regards to the budget that's on the floor? Okay, with that being said, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that passes. And then moving along to 7.3, which is a memorandum from C. Smith, Interim Director of Finance, dated November 26, 2025, concerning the County of Simcoe budget, and that's just to be received. All those in favor? And that passes.
For note, I believe my previous conflict of interest stands on that, so I would be abstaining from that.
Yeah. Madam Clerk, is the pecuniary interest noted? Yes. Great, thank
Sorry,
you.
I was just going to ask, because that went really fast and I'm much slower than that. Could I actually have that referred to be considered as part of the budget next week? Yes? You got put in both spots? Oh, so should I do it during circulation? Oh, sorry. Okay. See, that's how slow I am.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then moving along to our fifth presentation, 3.5 is the presentation concerning the Downtown Barrie Business Improvement Association Summer Concert Series. I would now like to call Craig Stevens, Executive Director of the Downtown Barrie Business Improvement Association, to deliver his presentation. And it sounds like he's got a few backup people coming with him. Mr. Stevens, some of my colleagues are thinking you guys look like a band yourselves.
We feel like a band. We'll pretend we're a band. Chair Harvey, Mayor Nuttall, members of the committee and council, we want to thank you for this opportunity to present you with an update on the Troubadour Festival this past summer. First, I just want to acknowledge I had a couple of BIA board members here previously, but I just want to acknowledge Richard Tremblay, Chris Gerard. We're here. I've got Steve Rickalis, who is behind me, chair of the BIA, plus I have my BIA team here in the audience. I also like to introduce the presentation team here today. I've got Ryan Anderson and Chaz Hay from Hay Bear Productions. They were responsible for booking the artists and managing the production and what we refer to as back of stage. I also have Harry Bird from Bell Media CTV, who will be presenting the wraparound promotional support that was provided for the Troubadour Festival series on behalf of Bell Media and CTV. I don't know if we've got a slide option. This would be not that one. Would you have it's the single slide, single page?
Yeah, I think it's, there we go.
Perfect. So just having this slide up, so we believe that the rebirth of the Troubadour Festival in 2025 was an outstanding success. It made a vision back when Meridian Place, the venue, was on the drawing board a reality. As you can see, the attendance and economic impact for the downtown was substantial, with approximately 15,000 attending and over a $1 million economic impact. I just want to make note that the two Troubadour festivals in July and August were paired with open-air Dunlops. And if you look at those, if you compare those two open-air Dunlops with the two that weren't paired, these had a 10% increase in attendance and actually a 2 to 3 times economic impact. So the combination was significant in those two, in addition to the kickoff and the finale. 2025 was a learning experience. We now know how Meridian Place functions and operates with events this size, scale, and scope that involve large, concentrated crowds. This also includes artist management, sound and light production, public safety and security, audience capacity and enjoyment, and more. Further, we now know not just the economic impact, but the amazing community impact of providing national level performers free and accessible to all. We all made investments in 2025 that we believe will be realized in 2026 and onwards. In that, we did experience higher costs associated with the event that were not anticipated. Working with Barrie Police and City of Barrie events team, due to the unknown nature of how the festival was received by the public, it was determined best to ensure public safety and security was prominent and coverage was ample to address many different attendance scenarios. In addition, a number of tragic public event incidents had occurred recently across Canada and internationally, and we wanted to make this a priority. We also did take the opportunity to realize additional revenues by way of increasing our vendor participation and working with 4 downtown businesses to facilitate a beer garden as part of the festival, all of which generated approximately $50,000 in additional gross revenue. A highlight that I'd like to point out on the two left and right sides was the local opener showcase, an overwhelming success. We did a community outreach and we had over 50 submissions of solo, duo, and band entries. We created a third-party jury to select 3 performers for each of the festivals, resulting in 12 local opener showcase selectees getting literally a rock star treatment and an opportunity of a lifetime to perform on the same stage as nationally known performers. At the end of this presentation, we'll have a video and you can see some of the reactions, which are great. I'll now pass this over to Ryan and Chaz, who will talk about our back of stage.
Good afternoon, Chair Harvey, Mayor Nuttall, and council members. I'm honored to share with you the story and spirit of Troubadour Festival, a live music festival that has grown into multiple musical celebrations throughout the summer months, enjoyed by audiences from across our region. Our company was founded when we identified a need to bring world-class artists to perform live in our community. As a longtime music fan, I found it frustrating that I had to always head down to Toronto to see my favorite artists perform live. So I started bringing many of those artists to Barrie. After presenting dozens of artists in our city at venues like the 5 Points Theatre, Donnelly's, the back room there, Georgian Theatre, and Mavericks, we started tossing around the idea of a festival. As a music television journalist, I spent a lot of time in Nashville and Austin attending many festivals, including South by Southwest. 38 years running, South by Southwest has always featured multiple artists performing on multiple stages throughout the city over several days. With that festival in mind, Troubadour Festival was born. Over the years, through dedication and the unwavering support of the BIA and our community, it has blossomed into one of Ontario's premier festivals. What started as a 2-day event has become a summer-long experience that draws crowds from far and wide, showcasing the best of Canadian music and local culture. Our stages have echoed with the sounds of emerging artists finding their voices, as well as celebrated acts who have made lasting impressions. Each year, the festival features an impressive variety of musical genres focusing on country, folk, and rock. Countless remarkable artists, including Matt Anderson and Asanabi, the Strombellas, Weather Station, and Joel Plaskett, have helped shape the vibrant legacy of Troubadour. The heart of our festival beats strongest on the Meridian Place stage, where last summer, Dean Brody, Brett Kissel, Hawksley Workman, and the 99s delivered unforgettable performances. If you attended any of these shows, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're quite the evenings. It's important to note that all of these artists expressed how much they enjoyed the experience of performing on our stage. This is a combination of the terrific audio that we have on our stage, the beautiful backdrop of the bay, how well they were treated by our team of professionals, and of course, our awesome audiences. In fact, Brett Kissel, who was here in September, he told me personally that Dean Brody had already given him the heads up. What a great time he had performing in our city.
What truly sets our festival apart is a commitment to community. It's a place to celebrate togetherness, families, friends, and neighbors connected by the universal language of music. Vendors, artisans, and volunteers join forces to create an atmosphere as warm and welcoming as the city itself, making every monthly festival a genuine Canadian experience. And the excitement doesn't end there. As we look to the future, we're considering some extraordinary Canadian artists for our upcoming festivals, including the Reclaws, Blue Rodeo, Alan Doyle, and Tim Hicks, each ready to bring their own signature sound to our stages and ignite new magical moments for all that who attend. Thank you to the City of Barrie for supporting this festival and sharing in the journey of the Troubadour Festival. Let's celebrate the music, the memories, and the promising roads ahead together, right here in Barrie. Over to Harry.
Thank you for the presentation. Your Worship and Councillors, thank you for the opportunity to share highlights from the Troubadour Summer Concert Series, an event designed to celebrate Barrie's waterfront and bring our community together. This series reflects our commitment to the community, our mandate at CTV Barrie, with Bounce 104.1 and Pure Country 106. One of the most unique elements was, as mentioned earlier, the local opener showcase. It gave homegrown talent the opportunity and chance to shine on a big stage. For the first concert, we even hosted an award-style event at Dunlop Diner to celebrate the artist chosen to open for Dean Brody. These announcements aired live on CTV News, Barrie, and across our radio stations. Promotion was extensive. We drove engagement through social media, created dedicated websites for event details and road updates, and ran contests across our airwaves. Mayor Nuttall joined us on air several times to promote downtown Barrie and the festival. We created dedicated Troubadour websites across all of our Bell Media platforms. And to keep the community informed about the concert series, these sites provided details about the events and shared important updates on road closures, parking, and how to enjoy the show. We also produced a commercial through CTV News creative team, which aired nightly at our 6 p.m. after the Dean Brody concert to keep momentum and excitement building throughout the community. We committed a significant investment in promotion to help make this free, original, and truly local experience, helping build a lasting legacy of arts and culture in Barrie. CTV News, Pure Country, and Bounce Radio were proud to present this series from the ground up, and we're excited for what the future holds. Thank you. Do we have the link? Might be the last page.
Just a reminder on time, if you're able to circle it out in the next minute or so.
Yep, we've got one video, if we could show that. Is that all right? 60-second video, okay.
A picture's worth a million words, right? 1,000 words.
Since we're cut on time, can we show the long video? This is the one, the longer one, sorry, the long. That one, yeah. This one.
Canadian summer, making friends, crushing cans, holding hands, those Muskoka pines. You're blinking, it's over. Driftwood campfire nights in the land of the northern sky. And ooh, out at the moon, when I stumbled in love with you, babe. All the magic we made that Canadian summer. Pine trees. Oh, I hope you're happy and your heart still burns. Canadian summer, making friends, crushing cans, holding hands, those Muskoka pines. You're blinking, it's over. Driftwood campfire nights in the land of the northern sky. And ooh, out at the moon, when I stumbled in love with you, babe. All the magic we made, yeah, those were the days. Oh, don't you wish we could stay in our Canadian summer?
There was a second part, but that's perfect. So yeah, so we just obviously wanted to end off with a video that recapped a Canadian summer and a crushing can kind of mood if you hadn't to catch the lyrics of that song. So anyway, available for questions.
Great, thank you. And I noticed your video clip missed one key piece that I know occurred, and that was the mayor on the stage strumming away.
We have something special here, actually. We have the guitar that played on that stage that we now know is worth way more than it was before, but we would like to return it. Here's this famous guitar that got to play along with Brett Kissel. And in addition, we actually have a presentation as well of the 4 Troubadour signed posters of all the performers of each of those nights that we want to present to Mayor Nuttall and Council.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you want to photo? Yeah, let's do it.
Story. Members Committee, just quickly, I think it should be noted that originally what started this was, I think, honestly, the canceling of some snow removal and then saying, put that into some music. And then it was like, wait, we need to do way more than that. And then it blew from there. So I want to say to the Deputy Mayor, it was actually originally his idea.
Thank you, guys. This is wonderful. Thanks for the presentation. Thank you. Pass those around. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And just before we close out, do any members of committee have any questions? Any members of non-committee? All I can say is you had one heck of a good festival and you've kind of already set the bar high. So let's see if you can break that ceiling again this year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And moving along then to number 7, which is committee reports. We were already dealt with that under presentations. And now to double back to the section 2, which is open delegations. As I see, she's been sitting in our crowd waiting very patiently, much longer than the 6 o'clock that we anticipated. So we have one open delegation, and the open delegation is by Jen Slakehouse of Clean Up Barrie concerning the cleanup program and a request for support. I would now like to call Jen Slakehouse to the podium for her presentation. And under the bylaws, you have 5 minutes for your presentation.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Good evening, Mayor, members of Council, City staff. As you already know, I'm Jen Slakehouse, the Executive Director of Clean Up Barrie, a community nonprofit organization who's dedicated to cleaning up litter across the city. Today, I'm here to share the impact of our organization in the last 2 years since the presentation I made to Council in 2023. And that's to demonstrate how our programs are strengthening our community and request the city's support to expand our important work in 2026. Since my last presentation in 2023, the impact of our mission to make Barrie litter-free has significantly increased. In 2024, we cleaned up 500 bags of litter, and this year alone, we reached a milestone of 2,500 bags of litter cleaned up, or 1 million pieces of litter this year alone. Since 2020, we have now cleaned up over 27,000 pounds of litter from our environment and public spaces. To achieve this, we've partnered with our local organizations, individuals who need volunteer hours, and staff and local businesses. However, a significant portion of our success has come from our transitional employment program, which provides paid cleanup employment opportunities for individuals who face barriers to employment in the city. This year, we had 40 participants who took part in the program. Participants were cleaning up 3 days a week for 2 to 3 hours per cleanup at over 200 different events. In addition to the environmental benefits, this program is life-changing for some. Several participants secured full-time employment, supported by letters of reference from our organization. For others, the stipend that they received provided essential financial relief while giving them dignity, structure, and meaningful participation in the community. Our efforts not only improve the aesthetics in the City of Barrie, it also reduces public safety risks, prevents plastics from entering our environment, including Kempenfelt Bay, and assists those in the community who need financial assistance while stimulating the local economy. Our 2025 outcomes were strong, but they were only made possible by grants, which make up 80% of our revenue. It costs approximately $70,000 to deliver this program this past year. There are no municipal or regional grants to support environmental stewardship, to sustain our programs, and to meet the growing service demands, and to hopefully expand this program to help more individuals and clean up more litter. We are requesting city funding in 2026 in the amount of $20,000. The investment will directly support the continuation of our transitional employment program, provide safety and cleanup supplies, program coordination, training for participants, and support our public outreach and events. Every dollar invested will generate multiple returns: cleaner parks, safer public spaces, reduced waste entering our environment, creating employment opportunities, and having the dollars invested directly into the local economy. This is a significant value to the city, as Clean Up Barrie acts as a force multiplier for the municipality and the services. We mobilize residents, we provide community-led environmental stewardship, we deliver cost-effective cleanup capacity at a significant reduced rate, and we help the city meet its environmental and sustainability goals. We're also engaging populations that traditional systems often struggle to reach. This is a partnership model that works, and it's one that I know residents value, as I receive multiple messages on social media. In closing, I'd like to thank Council and City staff for your ongoing collaboration and support. I know it was a lot of work to run around and clean up those 2,500 bags. With your help, Clean Up Barrie can continue to thrive in 2026 and hopefully play an even bigger role in keeping our city clean, inclusive, and environmentally resilient. I respectfully ask the committee to recommend to council and general committee for our funding request in 2026 of $20,000. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Great, thank you for your presentation. And do any members of committee have any questions? Councillor Kungl.
Thank you, through you, Chair Harvey. Great to see you, and thank you for bringing back some of the stats. I remember the impactful presentation about how this took off, and do get a lot of comments around visibility and impact that residents appreciate with this. So I didn't know if you could share more about, I think I heard you say it's about $70,000 to run the program for a year. Your ask is $20,000.
Yes, that most of that is providing the employment support as well as supplies. I don't make any money. So the true cost is probably double that. You know, if having full-time coordination, project management, that type of thing. But that was our expenses that we could afford this year. On a day like today, you see that we could be out all across the city before the snow comes and covers up all the garbage I know I see when I'm driving around. I'm not sure if that's particularly answers your question.
That does help. And then through you, Chair Harvey, maybe a question to staff. Then my understanding is, as Jen mentioned, and historically we've got that beautiful sport and recreation grant that still exists of about $300,000 a year, but other not-for-profits and groups that don't fit into that, we have not built anything yet, to my understanding, that ties to, like, Living Green has been before council, Jen's been here repeatedly, but we don't have any other avenue and they still don't fit into that criteria. But is anything being built or looked at outside of sport and recreation for grants?
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Kungl. I believe, Councillor Kungl, the only one that I'm aware of is through the Culture Report Back report, which is an in-kind type of grant system.
Okay.
But I don't believe, it's something that I have to check with staff, but I don't believe there's any other grant program that we're considering at this stage.
Okay, and then if I may, only if you feel that that's something in time, as I'm thinking through it, back through you, Chair Harvey, to GM Schmidt, or to redirect. Is there anything regarding how this Clean Up Barrie program has evolved over time that would potentially have it either fall in or outside of city consideration? So does it matter about staffing, or would anything loosely fall under recreation when we look at activating people and the outdoors and taking on something? Or is it something in particular that would meet criteria, or just simply, you know, it doesn't fit? Maybe that's more fair to redirect to CEO Prowse.
Through you, Chair Harvey, to Councillor Kungl. Councillor Kungl, I think these types of decisions really fall on council. We don't have an intake process to deal with groups like Clean Up Barrie, as worthy as they are. Our approach is to provide support. We coordinate the pickup of the trash that they're kind enough to pick up. It's taken to our landfill, and we do that at no charge. That's really the extent of staff's ability to coordinate and facilitate. If a group like this is something that meets council's list of priorities, then council would have to make the decision as to whether they're funded or not, being cognizant of the fact that if indeed you do that, then there will be other groups that come forward, also worthy causes doing great work, that will also want to be funded. And that's the challenge. That really isn't something that can be delegated to staff to do an intake on. Unfortunately, it ends up at this table, and council has to decide whether it meets your threshold.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just to redirect, I mean, personally would love to see this funded, but as well as others. And I've always struggled with having grants for some, but no type of gateway in. And I thought we had some interesting conversations maybe a year or two ago about how we look at those things. So I do see it's valuable. I do see that this, as well as others that fall outside of sport and recreation that have come to the table, have a place around our strategic directions, especially when they tie to climate and our objectives, whether it's tree planting and cleanup and or beautification of the city. It is a year that we do not have access to beautification dollars in this coming year. I think that has been done and spent with those parameters. So I'll vocalize. I appreciate you coming. I would like to see this supported and or conversations about how we look at those that fall outside of current grants, but that do tie to our strategic priorities.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of committee? Members of non-committee? I saw Councillor Rietma. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. And thank you for coming, Jen. And I'm sorry that you come every couple of years and then you get an answer that's no. And I'm like, keep coming. I'm like Councillor Congo, actually. I'd like to find a way to help your organization, because I think you certainly provide a very valuable service. And move forward the city's interests. And I think one of the interesting pieces that you do provide is the transitional employment. And I was wondering, do you have any connection with the County of Simcoe with respect to that part of your operation?
No, not at this point. I have reached out to them regarding the program or trying to get them to fund it, or, I'd like to see it expanded. Obviously, outside of the City of Barrie, it's has significant impacts in many areas, but there's no formal partnership or anything like that.
Okay. The County of Simcoe does provide social services for the City of Barrie, and you've got a social service going there, in the transitional employment part of it. So I'm just wondering if perhaps you and I shouldn't go and have a chat with the County of Simcoe and see if there's any avenues there that might be open to you. So
sounds like they have a lot of money, so.
Yes, they do.
Great, thank you. Any other members of non-committee with any questions? Councillor Corser.
Hi, Jen. How are you doing? It's good to see you back at City Council. Sorry, through you, Chair, to our guest. Again, I just want to reiterate that I'm disappointed that we don't have proper grant funding for organizations like yours and several others within the city, and it's something that I believe that Council really needs to take a second look at. How are you funding your programs now?
As I mentioned, at least 80% comes from grants. So those could be one time, obviously it's very competitive process. So you spend hours and hours writing grant applications. I think I'm at like a 60% success rate in terms of dollars asked to what I've received. So, the reason we were be able to do so much work this year is because I did receive 2 grants. Most likely I won't get them next year. So it does really ebb and flow. So the impact will ebb and flow in terms of how much work we can do. The reason for the ask for the approximate 20,000 is that's roughly my estimate what the city spends on the former Spring to Clean program. So, and that's a one-time year event. So, and I think that's mostly staffing, mainly costs around 15,000, and then, anything that's not included in there, which would be, supplies, things like that if they're purchased. So, I thought in trying to compare apples to apples, but yeah, grants, and then the other 20% sponsorships, fundraising, everything that every other nonprofit charitable organization does to try to generate revenue.
Thank you for that, and I think that you run a very worthy organization, and I would like to see future support for it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. Just want to ask a quick question. Have you this year done any work in the Lovers Creek area ecosystem? I know you're throughout the city and various places. I just wanted to...
We did a couple of cleanups along there, actually. The big one was just south of Big Bay Point behind the Zares, down in that ravine that runs up to the stormwater ponds south of there.
Perfect. I'm under budget this year for Ward 9, and I hate making on-the-spot decisions, but I'm going to run it with the clerk's office, and if it's appropriate, I know the people of the Loon Avenue neighborhood and all of Ward 9 appreciate it, so I'll commit to $1,000 for now. This is not a permanent thing, but the Lovers Creek has been a growing area, and garbage is getting worse. We're getting a lot of bag signs in Barrie, the way the GTA has been getting them. So because work has already occurred, because I have to follow rules, like I can't give you sponsorships, right? Not contribution, but a sponsorship for a future thing. I have to say within the calendar year. That's why I led with that question, but we'll get it figured out. But again, thanks for the work you do. It's unfortunate that you even have to do this work. And obviously we have to figure out the existing framework and obviously existing staff. I know that gets a little bit complicated, but thank you on behalf of the people of that neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, just because of time, you've already had your time questions. So actually, I'm just going to close out with one. Pardon me?
Just a point of order. I didn't think there was a cap on this committee.
We're under a time constraint. Council was actually supposed to start or General Committee is supposed to start right now. We've already been around the table once. Everybody's had their opportunity to ask their questions. So in the spirit of trying to move things along, I was going to close out and ask one question of my own, so then we can move on and don't delay the other meeting that is supposed to start right now. This will be the second time within this same committee that you have logged a lot more questions than any other member around this table. So with that being said, I would ask that we continue to move this along.
I don't mind, but just for clarification on process to the clerk, I don't believe we're under a constraint in the format of this meeting.
Madam Clerk, if you want to clarify.
Through you, Chair Harvey, members of council can ask questions multiple times, I guess, at committee meetings. It's council that it's restricted to once per person. But in the past, if there has been time constraints, the chair has requested, questions maybe more of importance or that we may need an answer from staff for to be asked first. And then if there's any questions that can be asked offline, to do those offline.
Thank you for the clarification. And with that being said, I would ask that we move along. I'll ask one quick question. I know we had a good conversation there about a year or two ago on the telephone. And at that point, I don't believe your organization was a registered charity or anything. So I'm just curious what the status of your organization is at this point.
We're an incorporated provincial nonprofit organization.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you for all the work that you do in assisting in keeping our city clean. And it sounds like there may be some further discussion. But as you heard earlier, we've already voted on the budget at committee, and it will be moving along to general committee. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And with that being said, we don't have any other items for discussion. And that brings us to adjournment. This concludes the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee meeting. This meeting is adjourned, and I'll just double check with Madam Clerk what time we'll start. Okay, we'll have about a 20-minute delay. So